It's a great pleasure to introduce myself. Myself, Shilpa Garg, hailing from Bathinda, Punjab, but I'm working as a lead AI consultant with Magic Software Noida. Alongside, I'm the co-organizer of GDG New Delhi and WTM ambassador as well. How about you, Chan?
Thanks, Shilpa. Hello, everybody, and namaste from Dhanbad. I am Chayan Chawda, organizer of GDG Ranchi. It is indeed a great pleasure to welcome you all to Google Cloud Community Days. Hope to have loads of fun along with learning and insightful discussions.
Despite of all the challenges that we have faced during COVID-19 and lockdown etc., we somehow managed to make 2020 amazing with the events starting from International Women's Day, DSC OMG, WebDev Live, CDS Extended, and of course DevFest India. We have more such events and we have arranged all that events from the comfort of our homes and keeping our safety in mind. We also had Google Cloud Next and 11 weeks of Android, which had very interesting formats, and we saw amazing audience from all of about the country participating virtually. For that, a big shout out to the developer relations team who have been working along with us to keep our spirits high, with organizers and stakeholders to keep us motivated, focused, and to arrange all these events seamlessly. How are we planning to start 2021, Chen?
Continuing last year's trend, for the very first time, almost 10 GDG Cloud communities have come together to make this happen, where you will learn a lot about certifications and how you can crack the certificate examinations.
Since we have been receiving a lot of questions regarding these certifications and how they can crack it, we thought why don't we clear it all at once? Right, Chan? Yeah. So as you see this lineup of speakers, for our keynote session, we have to begin our day, we have Pranka Virgadi in the house. So, Priyanka Virgadia is a developer advocate at Google, where she creates content for speakers, for developers, and to learn Google Cloud. She has created over 300 videos, articles, podcasts, courses, and tutorials that have helped developers to learn Google Cloud fundamentals, solve their challenges, and pass certifications. She is the writer and creator of GCP Sketchnotes. If you want to know more about it, search for hashtag GCP Sketchnote and you can learn about it a lot. She's always happy to connect with anyone and answer your questions on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you want to answer your questions, you can connect with Priyanka Virgadia on LinkedIn. Over to you, Priyanka.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this year's Google Cloud Community Days India. It's a 2-day event today and tomorrow, and this year's event is based mainly on certifications. So you're going to learn a lot about certifications, why it's important, different types of certifications, which one's right for you, and those types of things. So my name is Priyanka Vargadia. I'm a developer advocate at Google Cloud, and I'll be kicking us off with getting started with Google Cloud certifications. So in the next 40-ish minutes, I'm going to walk you through the different types of certifications and some burning questions around, should I get certified? Why should I get certified? Is it important? How does it help? And what path should I take? What are the different, if I decide to get certified, what are the different resources I should be using? So that's kind of what I'll be covering in the next few minutes, around 40-ish. And with that, let's get started. So here's the agenda. There are 4 sections in my presentation. We're going to first understand why certification, or answer some of your questions around why is it important? Is it important for me? Is it right for me? And those types of things. Second, isn't experience more important is the second part, which I think is one of the questions that I've been getting a lot from the community. So I wanted to answer that one as one full section in this presentation. And then the third is I'll walk you through all the certifications, give you an overview, what they mean, which one's right for you, so you can decide depending on your career path. And then the last is once you decide on which certification you want to do, what are the certain learning paths that you can take and get started on that journey of getting certified. So with that, first question, why even bother getting certified? And that's important in a couple different aspects. And I'm not going to say that all the points here in like the next 3 or 4 slides are important for everybody. There's going to be some portions that are important for you. There's going to be some others that are important for other people. So depending on where you are in your journey, it's going to differ as to what you take away from this Why Certify section. So the first thing that I want to share here is there's this independent study done by a third-party research organization, and they found out that people who have certified, they were surveyed, and they found that 78% people feel more confident in their professional future after getting a certification. 82% can prove that their skill competency is there to on the resume to recruiters and those types of things. And then they just feel a little bit, it just feels a little bit more attractive that you have some sort of a certification in order to prove that you know a certain thing, right? And then the 85% people felt more confident about their skills. Now, I personally feel that that last one is pretty important. If I was taking that survey, I would have answered 85%. I would have been in those 85%. All those other numbers matter less to me, but they matter more to other people. So depending on where you are, right, any of these numbers might matter to you. For me, getting that skill is a lot more important, and that's why I would have probably marked I feel more confident with the cloud skills that I have, because when I study rigorously for the certification, I learn more than what I would have learned without trying to attempt the certification. So my answer would be in the 85%. So hopefully this helps answer a little bit of that. To some people, they want to get a job that takes them to the next level. They want to have that certification on the resume. So you might be in that second and the third category to be attractive to recruiters. And so, yeah, depending on where you are, it might matter, it might differ what you think about. Now, the second thing is you get to enjoy some of the benefits after getting certified. You get to be in a specific Google Cloud certified community. You get to ask questions to the people who have done some of these things, who have been in the industry and have the certifications. You get to recognize yourself. We talked about some of this stuff in the previous slide, and you get to show off all of that in your professional networks, if that's important to you. And then to the next thing, the decision makers are also looking at certified people. So it might matter if you are, for example, trying to apply to a partner, for example, who does a lot of Google Cloud implementations, then having a certification might be important because they are only hiring, for example, they might be only hiring people who have certifications because they don't have the time and energy to train you. They assume that a certification at least gives you that baseline to start doing the job as soon as they hire you. So IT decision makers are looking at some of these certification related metrics in their businesses, and you can read what's on the screen and pause as well. Now, building skills for the future with Google Cloud Learning. So there are multiple paths that you can take, and we are going to go into details of the path. So I'm not going to go do that here, but there can be instructor-led training that you can do, which is in Coursera. And then there's now that the world is kind of in that online mode at this point. Number two is a little bit more appealing, where you can do an on-demand training in Coursera or Pluralsight. There's also hands-on labs in Qwiklabs and Qwiklabs. Those are the two platforms that you can use to actually do the labs and get hands-on experience. And then the final path is once you're comfortable with 1, 2, and 3, or just 2 and 3, you can go take that certification. That could be your path. Now, this is a very broad path, and I'm going to in the last section of this presentation, I'm going to give you specific resources in terms of what learning paths you can take. So, but I just wanted to give a quick idea of what the path can look like for you. Now, proficiency and role based certifications give you a benchmark for success. We kind of already talked about this. It kind of gives you a framework to measure either if you are part of the team and you are hiring people, it kind of gives you a benchmark, like I said previously. And if you are a person who is looking for the job, it gives you a comfort that you know the skill at a certain level of expertise. Now, second section, isn't experience more important? And this is such a common question that I guess get asked. So I wanted to answer this one. Now, if you don't have, and we're going to do like 4 different sections here, if you have no experience and no certification, the prospects of opportunities are less because you need to get lucky to find internal opportunities, right? And because nobody is going to give you an opportunity if you don't have an experience or if you can't prove that you can do this. And if you don't have the experience and also don't have the certification, that it can increase the chances by practicing and certification. So if you fall in that bucket, then certification and going for a certification could be helpful because you can't build up experience in like few months, but you can get certification to build some skills. So if you are in that category, then your best bet is to get a certification to compensate a little bit for the experience so that you can get the opportunities in those internal opportunities where you can showcase yourself, and then you can build upon your experience. Now, if you fall in this bucket, which is you have the experience but you don't have a certification, now the opportunities continue in places where your reputation exists because you've proved yourself wherever you're currently working, maybe in your team or in your company. People know you and they know your work. So your opportunities will continue to grow because of the experience you already have. But getting certified could help you take that next step in your career growth, maybe outside of the company you are in or outside of the team you are in. And there you don't, your experience will count, but your certification could be more helpful. And then we come into the third category, which is you don't have the experience, but you have the certification. We kind of touched on this in the first category, right? This is where more opportunities are available, and you can have a foot in the door. Like wherever the opportunity is available, at least a certification is helpful to showcase that you know this skill. Now, it's understood that you don't have the experience, and with experience comes a lot of things, right? You still have to demonstrate the skills with ongoing learning, but at this stage, it's at least the stage is set for you to start building on top of a certification, because you learn a lot in order to get a certification. You do hands-on stuff, you do labs, you spin up servers, you're deploying an application, right? You're doing a lot of things while you're studying for the certification, which builds that solid framework on which you can prove to a team for a new opportunity, either within the team you're already working in or outside of that. And then the fourth, which is you have the experience, you have the certification, and that's kind of where you will have possibilities for more opportunities because now you're checking all of the boxes. Now, this chart is really to show which category you want to fall into and which one you are aiming towards. Now, you might be in this first category with less or no experience and no certification, but what's your goal, right? The first goal, like you have to crawl, walk, and run approach, right? If you are in this category, you want to get certified. That's probably your first path because you can't really gain the experience right away. So certification is probably your first path. And then once you have certified, try and look for those internal opportunities so that you can gain that experience. And this becomes your path then, ultimate path, right? And if you don't have the experience and the certification, but you find that there's an internal opportunity where you can gain the experience, then you jump on this train, and alongside that, you try and get a certification. So then you take this path right here. So, depending on where you are, where you're working, what journey you're at, you have multiple paths that you can take to get to that green box. And none of the paths is right or wrong, right? It's right for you in the moment and in time and for your particular situation. Now, third section, which is certification overview. This is a long section. So there are two levels of certifications that you will see when you go to the certification website, and I'll include the links for all of that as well. So scope of cloud certifications fall into associate and professional level certifications. The associate level certifications are to test you on technical requirements. You need to build, deploy, manage. You need to know how to do those things in the Google Cloud Console, and then you must have implemented it in a situation. And then the second, which is the professional one, also tests you on some business requirements. How can you design a plan? How do you ensure reliability, scalability, optimization, and all of that is included a little bit in the certification as well. And that's why it's professional level certification. You're looking at a holistic picture than just being able to build something on the cloud, right? So that's kind of where the two different levels, associate and professional, fit. Here are all the certifications. And associate level, there's on the right hand side a recommendation that it should take around 6 months hands-on experience. And then for professional, it does require a little bit of industry experience and at least 1 year of hands-on experience with GCP. But again, they don't consider those to be the blockers in pursuing one. And the reason I say that is because you might be a fast learner and you pick it up very quickly. And if you don't, say you are at ground zero, you don't have any certifications, you have no knowledge of cloud, but you are a really fast learner. In the 3 months, you get associate, and then the next 3 months, maybe you get a professional. So and you build that experience as you're walking through some of the resources that I'll be sharing later in the slides. So don't let that, those are averages, right? Don't let that guide how you pursue, because every individual is different. Every individual's situation is different. So look at the exam guide for all of these. There's an exam guide that tells you what the certification actually tests you on, which we're going to see in the next slide. So, associate cloud engineer. People who should get it: cloud admins, cloud architects, are the people who should try and get an associate cloud certification. What does it test? It tests you on cloud environment setup. Can you set up a solution? Can you plan and configure your cloud solutions? Can you deploy and implement a solution? And then make sure that access and security and permissions for those resources that you deploy, you know how to manage those permissions and resources, and ensure a successful operation of that solution that you are building. That's what an associate cloud engineer is expected to know when they are getting into the certification. There's a book that you can use, and I'll include the links there. And there's also, obviously, the exam guide. There are case studies in the exam. So you would study the case of a specific company that wants to do X, and then questions would be based on that situation that you are going to answer depending on where that company is. So that case study is going to be pretty important in your preparation journey. It's basically testing you on what would you do in a particular situation. There's also sample questions with every single one of the with every single one of the exams. You have sample questions, so they help you decide whether you're ready or not to take the test, to take the exam. So utilize them for those reasons. Now, the second is professional cloud architect. Again, cloud admins and cloud architects are the people who should take it. And what it is really designing and planning everything that is in the associate, but you also need to know a holistic picture. We talked a little bit about this. Again, same things. You have the Wiley book guide and you have the exam guide on the website, and the case studies. There are 4 case studies that come in this test, and there are sample questions. So test yourself and make sure that you are ready before you attempt the exam. Now, professional data engineer, who should get it? Data engineers and data scientists. If that's your path, if that's where you are going, or if that's where you want to go, then that's the certification for you. And you're going to have to know how to design a data processing system, build and operationalize the data processing system on the cloud, and then operationalize machine learning models and ensure solution quality. Now, in any of these certifications that I'm talking about, they don't just test you on Google Cloud, right? You do learn a lot while preparing for these. You do learn a lot about, for example, if you're preparing for data engineer, you are going to learn a lot about just data engineering and then how to apply it in Google Cloud. So if it's not just a Google Cloud certification, right? It's a certification where you are becoming a data engineer. You will learn the best practices of how to process data and how to create a data processing pipeline. What are the different ways of doing that? How do you scale a data processing pipeline? And just because it is a Google Cloud certification doesn't mean that you're not learning all of those things. Your basics are going to be all of those things, and then you can apply them um, in into your use cases. Now, next is network engineer. Now, obviously, network engineering and network operations people should target this certification. It's mainly along the lines of designing, planning, and prototyping the cloud network, implementing virtual private cloud for a specific company or a project, and then configuring network services, hybrid interconnectivity between an on-premise system and Google Cloud, and then implementing network security. Those are some of the things that are tested in there. Again, this is also, I'll make another point here. Your goal is to not get all the certifications. Your goal is to follow the path where you want to take your career. So I'm going to go back in here. You don't want to have all of these certifications. That's not what you're trying to do. You should target the ones that help you grow your career to where you want to take it. If you want to become a data scientist or a data engineer, maybe the 2 certifications you take are data engineer and machine learning engineer. That's pretty much it, right? Because that takes you to where you want to go. And then if you want to be a cloud engineer, a cloud architect, then maybe starting with a cloud engineer and then getting a cloud architect, professional cloud architect are your initial paths, right? You decide and you want to be a network engineer or a DevOps engineer, then those are your paths. Don't just try and get all the certifications, because that's not what this is about. This is about you trying to develop your career in a direction where you want to take it. And so first give a real hard thought as to where you want to go and then decide which certification makes sense or helps you get to that point B that you're trying to get to. It's very important because you shouldn't aim to just get all of the certifications. That's not the point of these certifications. Now, next is cloud security engineer. It's mainly for security engineers. If you are into security or if you want to be a security engineer, then that's probably a certification that's right for you. You're required to know how to control access, how to ensure data protection, manage operations within the cloud environment securely, and manage compliance for a particular application or services that are in the cloud. Then it's DevOps engineer. Now, DevOps engineer mostly would be site reliability engineers, and DevOps engineers, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's for people who are in DevOps or would like to take their career into DevOps or SRE. Here, you're really learning to apply site reliability principles to your services in the cloud, optimizing the performance of the website, managing your service incidents, building and implementing CI/CD pipelines for the applications and services, and then monitoring your applications within the cloud. So more of the operation side of things are included in DevOps certification. Again, if you're already a DevOps engineer, it may make sense to just start with DevOps certification. And it may make sense to just do that. So think about all of those things. Now, professional cloud developer is for the application developer, the API developer, or a cloud developer who wants to build cloud native applications. So this is going to be a certification for those building and testing applications in cloud in a native cloud fashion, learning a lot of serverless, deploying those applications in the cloud, and integrating the app with other cloud services and managing and monitoring that platform for the services. That's it's kind of aligned with, if you are already a developer, then maybe a cloud developer certification, and you are building apps, maybe this certification is perfect for you to start. Now, machine learning certification is for obviously machine learning and AI engineers and data scientists. Either you already are one or are striving to be one. And if that's the case, then you are looking into the professional machine learning certification. You need to know, in order to clear the exam, how to frame a machine learning problem, architect a machine learning solution, preparing and processing the data, developing the ML models, and then automating and orchestrating it. So ML operations and pipelines, and then continuing to monitor, optimize, and maintain those models and solutions. It's again, there's an exam guide and sample questions that you should try and do before you jump into the certification. All right, collaboration engineer. Now, this is mostly Workspace or formerly G Suite. If you are somebody who plans and implements Google Workspace authorizations and access, manage users, resources, and shared drives, and those types of things, and mails, then you probably should go get a collaboration engineer certification. With that, we are on learning paths. Now, you're at a point where you've decided which certification you want to get. And again, decide that based on where you want to go in your career. Don't decide that based on, I want to get all these certifications. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to grow your career. So pick the certifications that make sense for you. So given that you've decided, at this point, you know which certification you want to get and which one's right for you. Now we need to decide how to actually prepare for those certifications. And the way you do that, now this is an eye chart of a slide, but I'm going to try and demystify a little bit of this. And there's a reason why it's all on one slide, because I wanted to give you a map of where things are and where they lie so that it's helpful for you. Now, if you focus your eyes a little bit on the right, you see the certifications: the Associate Cloud Engineer, the Professional Cloud Architect, the Professional Cloud Network Engineer, the Security Engineer, and the DevOps Engineer. All of those certifications start from GCP Fundamentals Core Infrastructure. That's the course that you should take if you are looking. That's the first course that you probably should take if you're looking to get any of those certifications, because that's the basics, the very basics, the 101s. So you want to take that. It's a Coursera course. It's also in Pluralsight. And all of the links are on the right-hand side here, so you can access Coursera and Pluralsight. That's kind of where you want to start. That's your starting point for any of these if you have picked any of those. Now, the next thing you want to do is it has architecting with Google Compute Engine. Then you have same architecting with Google Compute Engine for the professional as well. And then if you are going for a network engineer, the path changes a little bit for you, because now you should take networking in Google Cloud Platform in the Coursera courses that are on demand in nature. And then same for a cloud security engineer. You need to know networking to be a cloud security engineer as well. So that's those are the two courses. Those are the two different paths. And then the last one, which is for the DevOps, you're going to take the site reliability engineering course. Now, once you have taken those, there's some others, like there's design and process, there's security and Google Cloud for the security engineers. You should take that. And then getting started with Kubernetes engine, which is the DevOps engineers should take that. Now, once you have taken those online on-demand trainings in Coursera or Pluralsight, and while you're doing those trainings, you will do some hands-on stuff in the labs, but there's also Qwiklabs, which has the hands-on labs in there as well. So there are some of these essential quests and cloud engineering and networking quests that make a great path from right after that. So all these lines and these paths are kind of self-explanatory once you have seen how it works. So you've taken these courses. Say I want to be a professional cloud architect, right? I take GCP Fundamental Core Infrastructure in my Coursera course or Pluralsight, and then I go and do my architecting with Google Compute Engine. Then I do design and process course within Coursera. Then I go do a quest in Qwiklabs. Oops. Then I go do a quest in Qwiklabs on Cloud Architecture Quest, and then I go do a challenge for that quest. Then I go prepare for the Cloud Architect exam. That's another course within Coursera. And then I go look at the self-study guide and look at the exam questions and the exam guide. Now, what's not on here, which I would do personally, is for any of these certifications, I would first, if you are somebody who already knows a lot and you're not starting from zero, then you might want to test yourself whether you are already ready for taking a certification. And I would do that by going on to the exam page, and then there's sample questions. Do the sample questions and see how you're performing in them. And if you feel comfortable with those questions, then you may, or you find that there are a few areas that you're not good at, then you work on those areas. But if you think that you are ready with the sample questions and it seems comfortable, then you might need less of a preparation and then go directly into the exam. I would also use sample questions as a path to guide me towards what is working or what's not working, what you do know and what you want to learn in your study plan. So these are just some recommended trainings or hands-on labs. There's a lot more on Qwiklabs that you should explore as you're learning. And some of these, if you're finding them hard, then you might need to look at a basic quest. So, for example, if cloud architecture quest is difficult for you, you might want to look at GCP Essentials and then come to cloud architecture and then start looking into, maybe you do all these just to prepare yourself for professional cloud architect. So there's mix and match that you can do depending on what your comfort level and where you are. Now, those were those top 5, right? Now, if you are going for a cloud developer, your path looks a little bit different. Same for data engineer or ML engineer or ML certification. You would probably do all of these for both data and ML to kind of understand both those realms, because there is a little bit of an overlap in the certification for data engineer and machine learning, because for machine learning you need to know data wrangling, so you kind of know a little bit of data engineering as well. So see what paths cross depending on what the exam guide is saying and what you know or don't know, and then decide on the plan for yourself. But this is just a generic plan that anybody could follow. This is similar to the previous slide, but I have it separately here because this explains this looks a little bit different if you are somebody who wants to look at it at a different angle. Here's another one, including all the resources for professional cloud developer, data engineer, machine learning engineer, and the collaboration engineer. And all these resources are in the links that I have mentioned, which is Coursera, Pluralsight, and also Qwiklabs. So you don't really have to take a note of any of this. If you just take a screenshot, that's fine too, because you can find all of these. And again, these are just some that I recommend, but these are not this is not the exhaustive list, right? You will need more depending on what you know and what you don't know. This is just an example of what your path could look like, what your plan of study could look like. And along the way, as you are getting into these certifications and preparing your exam, when you go into Qwiklabs, you can gain skills badges. So you can gain skills badges for creating and managing cloud resources, for foundational data, ML and AI, and all the others that are mentioned there. And these skills badges could be your badges that you can show off at different places, or they can just be things that help you feel like you are preparing and you are feeling prepared. Sometimes we just need that little encouragement to make us feel that we are headed in the right direction. So hopefully these resources, the study plans that I've shared, the learning path, and the skills badge give you that boost that you need sometimes to kind of take that step, keep going at it. Because I know that studying for any type of certification is not easy. You have to find the time to do it, and then you have to keep at it in order to gain those skills. And it's not fast. It's not a 2-day thing, right? So hopefully these steps help you do that. With that, I'm going to leave some resources here, and you can always ask me questions on the social platforms. I'm also on LinkedIn with just my name, Priyanka Vargadia. Send me your questions. I'm happy to answer them. Also, there are some resources on there that you can look at. I will be back to wrap up our community day, but I also want to mention that the presentations that you are going to see throughout the 2 days are going to be about those specific paths that you can take and you want to take. So go attend the sessions that make sense for you given whichever certification that you are trying to take, because they are going to cover what are the different case studies that are used in the exams, and then what are the different ways in which you can answer some of the questions. I think they're also going to cover a little bit on the sample questions and sample tests and what you can assess and not assess based off of that. So do attend those, and then I'll see you back in the closing session where we'll talk a little bit more about some of the resources that you can use. I'll point you to some more links that would be helpful in your study path and your journey. So do make sure you join the closing session. It's going to be a short and quick one, but I look forward to all of your questions on social media, anywhere else you want to ask question. I'm here to help you. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the closing session. Bye.
That was an amazing explanation on the need for certifications by Priyanka. I hope you guys have a better understanding on that.
Yes, of course, Chan. As Pranka has already mentioned about Qwiklabs, I think all of us should go to Qwiklabs and check the quest on it, because I have done some quests and they are really amazing and they help us a lot in completing the certification exams and in cracking that. And with that, should we move ahead?
Yeah, sure. But before we move ahead, I know you guys must be having a lot of expectations from us. We hope that by the end of day 2, we fulfill all your expectations. But we also expect something from you guys. Be nice, respectful, and constructive while interacting on the YouTube live chat or social media. Do not post anything if they are adult content, rude, or offensive statements. Do not advertise or promote anything. Do not spam. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated in this event. And failing to this code, you will be blocked from interacting in the chat. Lastly, report to cloudcommunitydays@gmail.com if you find or see anything inappropriate.
I would like to add on this and say bring your whole self to Google Cloud Community Days. If you come prepared, then you will get a lot from here. We have already mailed all the prerequisites to you, and you can also see that on our website cloudcommunitydays.com. And I would also like to add that be an active listener, because if you be an active listener over here, you will get back a lot, right? And it will help you a lot in cracking your certification exams. The content over here is recorded, and there will be no live Q&A, but our speakers are present with us in the chats, and you can ask your questions and any doubts which you have in the chats, and they'll clear you out.
But Shilpa, I have a question, and I think our audience must be having the same. The event is virtual and amazing content is being delivered. But what about swags?
Don't worry, Chen, about that. We have got you covered. We have quizzes and fun activities today where you can win amazing prizes. We have some goodies, Qwiklab credits, and even we have some coveted prizes for you as well. Do you want to know about it?
Yeah, sure, I do.
I'm sure you want to, because because we have certification vouchers for you, and they are worth thousands of rupees. You can win them. You can grab you this opportunity by participating in the fun activities and attending those quizzes. Top 20 attendees with the maximum marks in each of the quiz will get those prizes. But one thing to mention over here, the swags will be sent to Indian residents only. You will not be able to send the swags outside of India. So, but all of you can participate from outside India as well, but we'll be sending the swags within India only. Is that okay, Chan?
I guess it is. So that Shilpa is really awesome. And I am really excited about all the prizes, especially for the certification vouchers. And I'm sure our audience will be pumped too. Do you have any advice for our audience about how they can win these prizes?
I sure do have for them, but I would like them to stay tuned in the sessions, because you never know when the fun activity can come and they can win the prizes.
Okay, so after all this important information, it's time for us to head towards our first session. GCP has a wide range of products and services which are broken down into various categories based on the use cases, pricing, and scalability. A sample associated cloud certification problem will be deconstructed based on the requirements and analyzed using the lens of a cloud engineer to make the best choice in the demonstrated scenario. Vijeta is a GCP certified technical program manager and a visual storyteller who is passionate about combining the power of creativity and technology to explain cloud computing. She is the founder of clouddemystified.com, where she uses storytelling and analogies to explain cloud fundamentals and best practices. Over to you, Vijeta.
Hello everyone, I'm Vijeta, the founder of clouddemystified.com. Welcome to the Google Cloud Community Days India and thanks for tuning into my session. I'm Vijeta, a Google Cloud certified technical program manager who received her professional cloud architect certification last year. However, for this session, I'll be covering an important topic for the Associate Cloud Engineer certification and helping you choose the right compute resources to run your applications on Google Cloud. I'll take brief pauses in between the slides so you can think of any questions and ask them as we go along. So, why do we need to know about compute resources in the first place? It's because this choice is the first step for running your applications on the cloud. If you don't choose the right compute resource for the given workload, you will be at risk of witnessing more errors, delays, or even see your application fail. From an associate cloud engineer certification perspective, this is an important topic outlined in the exam guide. You should be able to analyze the situation presented in front of you and make the appropriate choices. The exam guide is available on cloud.google.com certification guides followed by cloud-engineer. Do go over this guide in great detail before beginning your preparation. Now, what are resources? what all resources does Google Cloud offer? We have the compute engine, Kubernetes engine, we have Cloud Run, App Engine, and finally we have Cloud Functions followed by Firebase. Let's categorize these options. Compute engine and Kubernetes engine are highly customizable in nature, whereas Cloud Functions and Firebase are highly managed. Now, what do we mean by managed? These are services provided by Google Cloud where the infrastructure, operating system, and other day to day maintenance is handled by the cloud provider, and the users can entirely concentrate on the code. This diagram would come in handy while answering questions on the exam, so take a moment to look at it. Now, let's move on to the problem statement. This is a sample problem and we are going to deconstruct it for better clarity. Here's the problem statement in front of you. A gaming company wants to use Google Cloud to run a Windows based PC video game which needs a GPU or a graphical processing unit. Later, they want to trigger a task whenever a JSON file with user statistics is uploaded to cloud storage. What compute choices would you make and how would you implement them? Sounds confusing? Don't worry, it's not that complicated. Let's give it a moment and dive in. Now, the best way to read any problem like this in the exam is by breaking them down into smaller parts. As you can see here, I've color coded the question into two different parts. Take a moment to have a look at this, and I will move on to to the parts in general. Part 1. Part 1 deals with the compute option used to run the PC based video game with GPU on Google Cloud, and part 2 deals with the compute option. Part 1 deals with the compute option used to run a PC video game on Google Cloud, and part 2 would deal with the compute option that you would use to trigger a task as soon as the user statistics is uploaded to cloud storage. The first service would need you to host a PC game with GPU, and the second service would need you to trigger an event whenever a file is uploaded. Now, let's start off by analyzing these different parts. Here's the big picture. The big picture that you need to keep in mind is we have two services provided by Google Cloud to fulfill the company's requirements. The first service would need to host a PC game with GPU, and the second service would need to trigger an event whenever a file is uploaded. Keep this diagram in mind, and we will slowly fill these services one by one. Breakdown of the first part. A gaming company wants you to run GCP on a Windows based PC service, and that needs a graphical processing unit. Let's move on to the requirements and the keywords that you need to watch out for. Here are the requirements. This particular service needs to be highly customizable, needs to have high memory and core. It also needs to have a graphical processing unit. And finally, it needs to run a Windows operating system. The keywords that you need to look out for here are Windows based PC and GPU. The major requirements, however, are the availability of a graphical processing unit and Windows operating system to run the workload. We need a highly customizable service to run the workload, and it also should use high memory and core. Take a moment to look at these requirements, and then we will move on. Remember the diagram that I mentioned in the beginning, where I laid out the various services? Now this is going to come in handy. Just think about the resources here that are highly customizable, and we will move on to the next one. As you can see here, Compute Engine and Kubernetes Engine are highly customizable and would fulfill our requirements. They are the clear winners, but now we need to drill down into the other requirements and get a final answer. Moving on, here are the requirements. Moving on to the first requirement. We need a highly customizable solution, and compute engine and Kubernetes engine would be the right choices for that. Next requirement is that we need high memory and core, and for this again Kubernetes engine and compute engine would be the right choices. Still confused? Let's move on to the next requirement. The next requirement, we need the graphical processing unit, since that was mentioned in the question. Again, for this, compute engine and Kubernetes engine would be the right choices. Finally, we need a Windows operating system. Now, this particular requirement is going to seal the deal for us and get us to our right choice. The correct choice for this is the compute engine. And we have the answer to this question. Take a moment to look at these requirements. We broke the first part into four requirements: highly customizable, high memory and core, graphical processing unit, and the need for Windows operating system. And using this, we got the final option of compute engine. Let's move on. Here's the big picture that I mentioned. So clearly, the first service that we need is compute engine, which is going to fulfill the requirements outlined in the question. Now, you must be wondering, why compute engine? Why do we need it? So, what are the advantages of using compute engine? It is GCP's infrastructure as a service offering, which allows for maximum flexibility to run your applications. You can customize virtual machines running on the cloud to suit your requirements, right from various options to choose from predefined and custom machine types. What do we mean by predefined and custom machine types? The machine types that you choose can be predefined or set by default, or you can customize it according to the requirements. As you remember in the question, we needed an offering that needed high memory and high core. So using this option, you can customize the offering and get really good performance. Next, we need to the compute engine has flexible costing. What do we mean by flexible costing? There are various sustained use discounts and committed use discounts, and you pay per resource. So only when you're using a resource you get to pay for it, which is extremely useful when we are going to host something like a gaming. Now, next option we have is container support. Compute engine has excellent container support that we can use for different applications that have high workloads. And also, finally, we have the ability to customize anything and everything we want on compute engine. What do I mean by highly customizable? This is the ability to customize your costing model, your machines, your permissions, or anything you can think of to deploy your application. It's an open play field where you can create your own environment and control it. If you read any of these keywords in the exam, remember to shortlist compute engine as one of the options. Just take a moment to look at it, and then I'll move on to the next slide. Now, when to use compute engine? This is extremely important, not only from an exam perspective, but also when you are going to deploy your applications. We should use compute engines when we need GPUs or TPUs for our usage. This will take us back to the question we just discussed where we needed to use a GPU. The next use case for compute engine is if we require a specific kernel or an operating system. Compute engine is the only offering where we can customize the kernel and the operating system to choose from Linux or Windows operating system, and it is highly customizable. The next use case we have are licensing requirements. If you have any licensing requirements, compute engine would be the best choice to go about. The next use case is if we want to migrate existing systems because it has great support for that. And finally, if we want to use network protocols beyond HTTPS, compute engine is an excellent choice. It provides a lot of flexibility with security and permissions. Finally, if you need one-to-one container to VM mapping, Compute Engine is a great choice. Now, since we discussed Compute Engine, I want to move on to the demo. So let's move on to the demo. So what we see here is the Google Cloud Platform console using which I'm going to deploy a VM and show you why I chose Compute Engine over Kubernetes Engine or any of the other compute choices. What I'm going to do now is go to Compute Engine here and create a VM instance. While this is loading, you need to remember that the VMs here can be created from the console itself, and let's click on Create. So while this is loading, let me name the instance video game because that's what I'm talking about. And we can choose the region. Like I mentioned, this is so highly customizable that you can choose from any of the regions or any of the zones. I'm going to let it remain as US Central 1 and US Central 1A. Finally, we move on to the machine configuration. We have general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, and GPU. Here you can see we have the GPU option, which makes it the right choice for our particular problem. We can choose A2 or N1. So let me choose A2 for that. And A2 high. So we have the NVIDIA Tesla A100. That's the GPU type. And we can select the number of GPUs. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, anything. So for the purpose of this demo, let me choose 2. We have other options here for like confidential VM service or container. Because I mentioned container in one of these slides, Compute Engine has great container support. So if you want to deploy a container image to this VMA, you can choose that. But I'm not going to do it because I'm going to concentrate on the problem statement we have in our hand. Finally, we have the Debian, GU, and Linux. This is the default boot disk we have, but for the purpose of the problem, let's change this and see what all we have. We have the Debian, we have deep learning on Linux, and we have the Windows Server. So Windows Server is what we needed for the problem, and I'm going to choose that. So we have the boot disk type, which I'm going to let it remain as standard persistent disk, and size is 32 GB. And I'm going to select this. So as you can see, this fulfills all our requirements for the question. We can create a VM, we can choose different regions, we have the GPU, we can choose the GPU, we have the GPU type, the number of GPUs, and this is high performance and high memory. And finally, we can choose the Windows Server, which is going to be compatible with the PC laptop or desktop for the game. I had mentioned about identity and API services and also about high level of security. And you can see here, we can allow default access, we can allow full access or set access for each API, which again makes it very highly customizable. I'll let it use the default access for now. So before creating this compute engine, um, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the HTTP traffic and allow HTTPS traffic. So this way you can set the security standards according to your requirement. Once you create this, you can see it is getting deployed here, and it's going to take some time to deploy. Now, the reason why we chose Compute Engine over Kubernetes Engine is the availability of the operating system. We were able to choose the Windows operating system, which wasn't available in Kubernetes. Now, that is why it is very important to read each part of the question very carefully to see what requirements fit within the particular problem statement and choose that to move forward. Now, I'm going back to the presentation. Yes. Since we have solved the first part, let us move on to the second one. I'm going to break the second part down and we are going to talk about the requirements. So, the company later wants to trigger a task whenever a JSON file with user statistics is uploaded to cloud storage. This is the second part which we are going to analyze. Let's look at the requirements. The first requirement is a low maintenance managed service. I had explained managed before. This means that there is no server overhead and it should be a fairly lightweight solution where the users can simply concentrate on the code. Now, what is the next requirement? It is there in the question itself. The next requirement is the ability to pull from cloud storage. So, the particular solution needs to be able to pull data from cloud storage and then trigger a task as soon as an event happens. What do we mean by trigger and what do we mean by event? Visualize earning your GCP certification and think about the response you'll give. You'll obviously be elated and relieved, right? The event of gaining your certification triggered the emotion of happiness and relief in you. Similarly, if any task like uploading a file to cloud storage needs to trigger a response, like sending a message or deleting records, Cloud Functions is a great choice. Now, let's go back to the diagram that we have been discussing since some time. Here are the compute offerings. Think about these options on the chart that are highly managed to fit into our requirements. Now, what are those options? You're right. They're App Engine, Cloud Functions, and Firebase. All these three services are highly managed and can be used for a particular problem statement. Let's move on. What are the requirements? The first requirement that we have is of a very highly managed service, and the second one is the ability to pull from cloud storage. For the first requirement, App Engine, Cloud Functions, and Firebase would be the right option. For the second requirement, that is the ability to pull from cloud storage, we can narrow the choices down even more. We have Cloud Functions and we have Firebase. Now that we have two options, let's move on to the final requirement to get the answer. The final requirement needs an event-based trigger. The minute you hear the word event-based trigger, Cloud Function should be the one that comes to your mind, which is the right choice for our second service. Now, let's look at the big picture. For the big picture, for the second service, Cloud Functions is the right choice to fit into our requirements. Now, why Cloud Functions? Cloud Functions is an event-driven serverless compute option. Now, what do we mean by serverless? Serverless simply means a service which doesn't require you to maintain the server or the operations associated with it. And auto-scaling refers to the ability of functions to scale up and down depending upon the load, which means it is extremely low maintenance and cost effective. Like I mentioned, auto scaling based on load. And finally, we have the third requirement, that is the application is built only while the code is running, which means you do not have to pay for the resources and you're only billed while the code is running, and just don't worry about it when the code is idle. Finally, we have built-in security at the function level. So at the function level, you can choose IAM roles and you can assign it to people, and the security is at the function level. And the next one is the ability to pull real-time data processing apps. Now, the final and the most important function that Cloud Functions has is integrated monitoring, logging, and debugging. So it is a one-stop shop when you want to use any kind of event-driven application for your particular service. Let's remember the question. In the question, the company wanted to trigger an event as soon as a file is uploaded onto cloud storage, and Cloud Functions makes it the right choice for that. Now, from an exam perspective, when do we need to use Cloud Functions? We need to use Cloud Functions to trigger events either from cloud storage, HTTP requests, Cloud PubSub, or Firebase. Cloud Functions supports all of these, so we can trigger an event based on any modifications, upload, or deletion in any of these services. The second use case is if we need a lightweight, serverless, easily managed solution. Yeah, and the next one is quick data transformations or ETL, and the final use case is requests on APIs. Cloud Functions is easily managed, so the people don't need to worry about anything other than writing the code, which makes it a perfect choice for the use case we had for the question. Take a moment to look at this, and then I will move on. So, if you see any of these keywords in the examination, remember to shortlist Cloud Functions. I'll move on. So, it's time for a short demo for me to show you how to use Cloud Functions and what we just did right now. I'll move on to the Google Cloud Platform console. And in this, I'm going to move on to the menu bar and I'm going to choose Cloud Functions. Remember that Cloud Functions may not be automatically enabled for you. And if it's not enabled, you need to download the API and enable it using the Google Cloud Platform console. The reason why I have this is because I've already used it before. Now, before creating a function, I want to create a bucket in cloud storage because we had mentioned that the application should have the ability to pull from cloud storage. So I'm moving on to storage, browser, and I'm going to create a bucket. Let me name this bucket Cloud Community Days. The reason I'm creating this bucket is the file will be uploaded onto this bucket, and as soon as the file is uploaded on the bucket, an event will be triggered. Let me click on continue. Now, we can choose where to store our data. It's multi-regional, dual regional, or regional. I'm going to choose multi-regional, and I'm going to set the standard storage class, fine-grained, and finally create. So I have created a bucket. As soon as a file is uploaded on the bucket, we want an event to be triggered. Let's keep this open, and I'm going to move on to the Google Cloud Platform. Moving on to Cloud Functions, I'm going to create a function. Let's name this function video game region. So you can choose which region you want to deploy this function to. I'm going to let it remain as US Central 1 and the trigger type. Here you have to remember uploading onto the cloud storage should trigger the event. So the trigger type would be cloud storage. Next, we have the event type. By event, we want to mention what do we want to do once the file is uploaded onto the cloud storage. And I'm going to choose finalize and create for this one. Finally, we have to choose the bucket which I just created. So now you see why I had to create the bucket in the first place. I'm going to browse, choose the Cloud Community Days as the bucket and select it. As you can see, Cloud Community Days has been selected, and I'm going to save this function for now. Next, here you can see the code and you can see the language of your choice. You can choose to write the function in either of these languages, but I'm going to let it remain Node.js 10. Here is the code that we need to execute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the code to trigger an event as soon as a file is uploaded onto cloud storage. So here I go. This is the code that I have. These codes and these triggers are available on the Google Cloud website, and you can choose them, just play around with them prior to the exam and see what happens. So the name of the function that we have is hello GCS. This is the language we have chosen, and I'm going to deploy this particular function. So the function is going to take some time to deploy, and while that is happening, I'm just going to read out the details here. So we have chosen the name of the function, we have chosen the region, that is US Central 1, we have the trigger. By trigger, we mean where should the file be uploaded for the particular action to happen. So it is the bucket, and the name of the bucket is Cloud Community Days. The language that I chose to write the function is Node.js 10. And this is the memory allocation, which is by default 256 MB. And the function executed is hello GCS, which has been deployed on today's date. Now, the function is getting created. And while the function is getting created, yes, so after the function gets created, we are going to go to cloud storage and we are going to download an application and see what happens. So, we are going to download a JSON file and see what happens. Apart from creating functions, you have the ability to refresh, delete, and also copy a function in case something suits your requirements. You can also move on to show information panel where you can have permissions and labels for the particular function. Since the function hasn't been created, we don't have anything here, but there's a lot of information at hand. So we're just waiting for the function to get created. And like I said, all these options here for copying, testing, and viewing logs are also available. Like I said, Cloud Functions also has the ability for us to monitor, debug, and view the logs in detail. So that also makes it a really good solution when you need something really lightweight. Like you mentioned, like you noticed, I didn't have to do anything. I just had to write a small code. I just had to choose the region and all the various offerings, and I have the function created in front of me. So this green tick shows that the function has been created. And I'm moving on to video game, and this is the page that you are going to see. So as you can see, it has all the monitoring metrics here, but because we haven't triggered anything, it is completely blank. We have the details, we have the source, we have, by source, this is the code that I just wrote. We have the variables, we have the trigger. So if you can see here, this is the trigger that we used. Any upload to the cloud storage bucket, Cloud Community Days, is going to trigger the event. And this option retry on failure, I haven't chosen this, so the function won't be automatically retried on failure. You can choose this option if you want to, but in case there's a small error or small debug, it can run on for hours. So the system is going to keep trying to trigger the event. Next, we have the permissions. So as you can see, there are permissions that you can give to members and different roles. So you can add someone, you can just remove permissions, and at the function level, you can decide what all permissions to give to people and to groups. Next, we have the logs, which are extremely helpful. So you can see a very detailed view of the logs, which we are going to do once we deploy the function. And here's the testing tab. So here you can test different codes and see how your function is responding. But since I already have the code ready in front of me, I'm not going to do that. Now, let us move on to the cloud storage bucket and perform the action. I'm moving to storage, browser. And as you can see, there's the bucket, Cloud Community Days. I'm going to upload a file. Like I mentioned, we need to upload a JSON file with user data. And I'm going to click on upload file, moving on to the desktop, and I have a JSON file here. The file is getting uploaded, and we have a successful upload here. Finally, now let's see what that did to the cloud storage function. I'm going to go to Cloud Functions while it is loading, and since you can see a green tick, I'm going to move on to this, and let's see what happened. If you move on to the logs, you can see a detail about what just happened right now. See, so if you can see, we various events were triggered as soon as I uploaded the file onto cloud storage. So we have, based on the code that you have written and based on the trigger, that is an upload to cloud bucket, of certain functions were triggered. This way you can see how cloud functions can be used for the particular use case and the question that we just discussed. As soon as a file was uploaded onto cloud bucket, a function was triggered. And here you have the logs in front of you about what happened, and the function execution took just 136 milliseconds and finished with a good status. So as you can see, we have successfully deployed the function. And once you have more and more uploads, you can also see the metrics, and you can also see the data, execution time, memory utilization, and active instances. Now, I will move on to the presentation, and we will discuss a little more about the cloud compute options. So this is the final picture. Compute engine would be used for our first problem statement and cloud functions for the second one. Just take a moment to have a look at it. Moving on. So the decision-making process. I'm just going to reiterate what we did right now. To answer any question related to compute offering in the exam, first break it down into smaller parts, then analyze the requirements one by one. Next, Remember the diagram that I'm showing again and again in this presentation and the various service offerings followed by a short listing based on the requirements. And that's it, we have the final answer. The Associate Cloud Engineer exam is 2 hours long and has 50 questions. Use your time wisely and don't miss out on any keywords. Dissect the question carefully and pay attention to the requirements. And remember to use all the resources and Qwiklabs to practice as much as you can. The more you practice, the easier it is for you to have these concepts stick in your mind. There's no quick solution, it just comes through practice and more practice. So remember that. Talking about resources, here's a very useful resource that has been created by Priyanka, who just spoke to you a while ago, on where you should run your stuff. So she has outlined all the various compute offerings, followed by the right choice to make in different circumstances. Just have a look at it, and I'm going to explain this more. This infographic mentions the various compute offerings with their definitions, use cases, features, as well as benefits. Take a moment to have a look at it. Visualize this to practice deploying your applications, triggering events, and playing around on Google Console and Qwiklabs during your presentation. I'll start off by explaining Firebase first and then move from right to left in explaining this infographic. If you are a mobile developer who needs to concentrate just on the code and needs a highly managed service, Firebase is GCP solution for that. It does storage, notification, and syncing without a lot of overhead for the developers. It is the first choice for mobile developers where you get a lot of features for a tiny amount of code. Now, if you need your application to be highly managed with minimum amount of server-side code, Cloud Functions is the right choice, which you just saw in the demo. Applications that are event-driven can leverage this function as a service offering without having to worry too much about infrastructure and other maintenance activities. It is also a glue connecting your various APIs together and used to trigger events from cloud storage and HTTP code, PubSub, or Firebase. Now, if your application falls somewhere between managed and customizable requirements or contains legacy codes, App Engine is the right choice. It lets you run your application with more runtime, making it a flexible fit to run a complex application. It's fast and auto scaling if you want the flexibility of running your application in containers. Cloud Run is a good choice. It brings serverless principles and containers together so we can get the best of the both worlds. It has a fully hosted backend and you only pay for what you use. These are the three services we just discussed. And now, if you need to run your application in containers and have a team that can overlook some part of the infrastructure maintenance, Google Kubernetes Engine is a great choice. This is highly customizable, like Compute Engine, which we just saw in the demo. If you need to host containers on VMs with the flexibility of scaling up and down as required, or if you have a bunch of microservices in containers, Google Kubernetes Engine is a great way to go. You decide the shape of the VM, customize it according to your requirements, and pay per VM. The rest of the choices are pay as you go services, differentiating it from Google Kubernetes Engine and Google Compute Engine model. Compute Engine and Kubernetes Engine lets you pay based on the resources, whereas the other three choices would let you pay based on the amount of code that is running. If the code is idle, you won't be charged. It is a pay as you go service. Now, Google Compute Engine is Google's infrastructure as a service offering, which is Google's most flexible option. If you have an existing software which we need to run on VMs, need a highly customizable solution, Compute Engine is a great choice. So remember, Compute Engine and Kubernetes Engine give us more control, whereas Cloud Run, App Engine, and Cloud Functions are managed for us. If you don't have an operations team, Cloud Run, App Engine, and Cloud Functions are really great choices, whereas Compute Engine and Kubernetes are great if you have a team that can manage the server-side operations. Compute engine and Kubernetes engine have resource based pricing. That is, you just need to pay per VM or resource, whereas Cloud Run, App Engine, and Cloud Functions have usage based pricing. You only pay for what you use. Now, take a moment to process this. I'll give you a minute to just look at this diagram. I have some other great resources that you can leverage for your preparation. The first resource here is Google Cloud's compute offerings, which has been published on the Google Cloud official website. So you can find all the products for all the compute products on this website, and you can just have a look at various offerings, what are the advantages, disadvantages, and if it's the right choice for you. The next resource is Priyanka's Sketch, which is available on YouTube. And the final link is a video created by Google Cloud on choosing the right compute option, which is also available on YouTube. Now, just take a minute to write these down, and you can use these resources towards your preparation. While you're writing this, remember, always pick the question into smaller parts, analyze these parts by the various requirements, don't miss out on any keywords. Make sure you write all of them down and finally narrow down the choices. Never start off with an assumption. Like for this problem, we could have assumed that Kubernetes is the right choice because it fits into all of the requirements, and just if we overlook the operating system part of it. That is why it is crucial to not start with an assumption, take all the choices into consideration, boil it down, short list based on the requirements, and finally, one by one, come on to the right choice. It is not that difficult. You just need to have an open mind, you just need to practice more and practice and practice. That is really important. So, if you have already noted the resources down, I would like to thank you for attending my presentation. You can contact me on my website, that is clouddemystified.com. You can contact me on LinkedIn or on Twitter if you have any questions. Take a moment to write these down and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for attending my talk. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijeta. That was an amazing session. Now I think I clearly know about Associate Cloud Engineering Certificate exam and its difficulty level. And even now, I think if I sit in the exam, I can clearly read the problem statement and go to the solution about it. Before we move to another wonderful session, we have something fun for you. Any guesses, Chayan?
I guess our next session, right?
Yeah, next session, but aren't you forgetting something?
Wait, are you talking about our first icebreaker session?
Yes, you're correct. We are going for the icebreaker session as this is the fun time. We are moving on to a quiz right now, and the quiz has 20 to 25 prizes awaiting to be claimed. We have 100 such prizes to give away within the whole day. But Chayan, wait 1 minute. As we all know, with all the F1 activities, there come certain rules as well, right? So let's move on to the
Yeah.
rules first. Before joining in the activity, I would like to request everyone to use your Twitter username as your quiz username, right? Please be on time, and if you join in late, then we won't be able to answer all your question, and then you won't be able to win the prizes. And third one is try using a laptop, because if you connect from a laptop, you'll be able to cope up with the live stream as well. The second portion is where you can join the quiz from your mobile phones, and then you can have the live stream open on your laptop. Okay, so to play this quiz, we have Ali and Pratyusha in house. Over to you, Ali and Pratyusha.
Hi everyone. Welcome to the activity. This is our first activity, so I hope you're all excited for it. I am Pratyusha and I am from GDG and WTM Hyderabad. Ali, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ali Mustafa, and I'm a co-organizer at GDG Cloud Mumbai. Please open slido.com on your mobile phone and get connected with the code A665.
Yeah. So we will expect around 500 people. I see most of the people are joining, so that's really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Make sure you use your Twitter username as the name for the Slido, right? Because that is very, very important, right? So that we can reach out to you in case you win, right? And we ship you swag. So that is very important, right?
And also try joining from
Okay.
the laptop and make sure you join so quick so you can answer all the questions and win exciting prizes.
Yeah,
Oh,
Pratisha,
the number is
500 is
increasing.
over that, right? We have around 900 people right now.
Okay, so my expectations are also increasing.
Yeah, we have around 1200 people right now. Let's see how many more join.
Yes, we'll give a couple of minutes for the people to join.
Yeah, sure. We want every one of you to join, right? So please join in.
Yeah,
We see the counter moving way, about 2000 right now.
yes. And just for the people who joined just now, make sure you use your username of Twitter only so that it will help us to track you and give you the prizes. If you don't have any Twitter
Make,
account, make sure you create an account. Yes, Ali.
yeah, yeah, we are at 3000. I guess I'm gonna say that we love you 3000.
Okay, so I think we can start. Is it?
Yeah, yeah. Let's wait
Or let's wait.
for a minute.
Okay, we still have a few people joining, so we'll wait. And uh, awesome,
Amazing.
guys.
We
Come
are
on.
we are about 3500. Can we hit 4000? What do you think, Pratisha?
Yes, absolutely. Also,
Yeah, the
people
energy is
make sure
really
you
great.
use Slido and not the comments to mention your answer to the questions.
Yes, I see a lot of
Mm,
usernames there. Amazing. We have hit 4000 people. Are more people coming in? Right. Let's wait for another few seconds before we go live.
yes. Yeah, we can keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
4,500.
Make sure you use your real username because I'm able to see some crazy ones on the screen. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Can we hit
yeah.
5000? Is it?
Yes, absolutely. We can get 5,000.
Okay. So we'll start as we hit 5000. Okay.
Okay. Join at slido.com. Code is A665. Come on, guys, quick.
Quick,
Guys
folks.
and
Quick.
girls, make it quick.
We are already 4900. Just hitting 5000. And there we go. So we are starting, folks. Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's see what our first question is.
The first question is unscramble. That's a really good one. Three-letter word. What do you think, Pratisha?
I see Google everywhere, so something related to Google, and because it's cloud, something related to Google and cloud. Hmm,
Yes,
let's see.
absolutely. Let's see what people answer. A lot of
Wow.
people have answered Google App Engine. Around 84% of them. That's awesome. Let's see
Let's see
the
what the
right
correct
answer.
answer is. That's correct. That's really nice. Most of the people have answered it correct. For Google App Engine, just so you know, it's a fully managed serverless platform for developing and hosting web applications at a scale. Okay. Let's move on to the next question, please. Oh, that's some logo. What do you think, Ali, it is?
It looks like a shark, and I remember one thing in my brainchild that is shark do. Okay, that's fun. But do you remember this logo being there in some cloud application? I feel like it is.
Hmm. Wow, most of the people have answered Docker. I hope that's correct. Let's see what the correct answer is. Wow, it's
Yay.
Docker. Yay.
Yes, I guess many
Uh,
people have also chosen Flutter and App Engine, getting into that blue color,
hmm,
maybe.
maybe. So, more information about Docker. It is an open platform for developing, shipping, and running applications. Yeah, let's move on to the next question.
Again, an unscramble. One letter word, right? Something related to I, because I see everywhere I. What do you think, Pratisha?
Looks like I've already got the answer, but since I should not reveal, I can give some hint. It is a type of cloud service. Wow.
Well,
So most of the people have answered infrastructure. That's really nice. And let's see what the correct answer is.
yes, that's infrastructure, right? So I guess a lot of people were confused with the lettering, right? And that's why we see 12% on first one.
Yeah. Cool, guys. You can answer at your own pace. That's fine. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Yeah, some logo again. What do you think, Ali, it is?
I feel really confused because all the Google service logos, like, they look similar, but this is something
Hmm.
related to the previous question, right? So you should folks should be able to guess it.
Wow, Kubernetes. Yeah, I think that's the correct answer. Let's see what the correct answer is.
Okay, let's see what the correct answer is.
Yeah, that's correct. Yay.
Yes.
And
So just as add about Kubernetes, it is a container orchestration service, which is which helps you to manage your containers. So that's awesome, and it is an open source, so you can use it on literally any cloud out there.
yeah, make sure you check it out. Let's move on to the next question.
Again, an unscramble. What do you think, Pratisha?
Mm, I think it is stability or scalability, but all the all the options seems to be the same.
Yeah, I
I need
see
to
that.
do editing. Okay, it's scalability. Most of the people have answered scalability. Let's see what the correct answer is.
Yes, around 80% people, 79.
Wow, 79%. That's really nice.
Yes.
Okay, scalability is something that is very essential to meet changing business needs, and Google Cloud Platform provides it. Really nice. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Again, the same question here, but we have a hidden logo again. What do you think, Pratisha? What
Mhm.
this one could be?
Uh, I'm not sure because all the Google GCP logos are somewhat same with the blue background. Let's see. Okay, most of the people have answered Google Cloud SQL. Hmm,
Let's see the right answer.
yeah. Oh, really nice. Most of the people are answering the
Yeah.
correct answer, 71%.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
so
really awesome. Uh,
hmm, more about Google Cloud SQL. It is a simple managed database solution for MySQL and SQL Server and other relational databases. You can perform various operations on it. Make sure you check it out. Isn't it awesome, Ali?
yeah, indeed, a very scalable service. I've been using it myself for a very long time right now. Let's move on to the very next question. Unscramble
This is
again.
fun. Hmm.
Can you give it a guess, maybe?
Yeah, something that starts with V. Or
Oh,
P.
yeah, that's a VP, maybe.
Oh, wow. 87% have answered virtualization.
Yes, let's see the right answer.
That's virtualization. Wow. So more
Amazing.
about virtualization. It is used to access different operating systems and servers from your very own local machine via the cloud. Okay, that is amazing. And let's move on to the next question. Wow, another logo. What do you think Elite is? It's
I
really blurry.
feel there is something a similar logo which was in orange, but this is in blue color. So I have given a big hint to everyone, but let's see.
Yeah, you have given a big hint, I guess. Wow, most of the people are confused
Oh,
between CX and UX.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, that is the kind of hint. So let's 40% have chosen UX and 37% CX. That's a very close call. Let's see the right answer.
Oh, it's CX. Okay. It's okay.
Yes,
Not
let's
always
go
the
CX.
majority wins.
Yeah, always, right? So if you want to know about Dialogflow, right? Dialogflow was really awesome. I used to build chatbots on top of that, and now the CS version is where it is integrated with Google Cloud. You can leverage the power of Google Cloud to build amazing chatbots using Dialogflow CX. Please go and check it out. It's really awesome.
I'll make sure to
Let's move
check
on
it
to the
out.
very next question. Yes,
Oh, unscramble
that's
again.
3 letters. Yeah. Oh, three
Hmm.
words. Sorry, but I feel this should be easy.
Yeah, this might be easy if you know English spellings.
Yeah, that is a prerequisite, I can say.
Yeah, okay. 79% have answered cloud management tools. Let's see what the correct answer is. Oh, it's
Yay!
cloud management tools.
Yes,
Okay.
79%. That's good. Pratisha, I guess you have been watching the numbers on top. It's around 5,700 right now. Amazing participation from
Whoa,
all our people in the chat.
that's really awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
let's move ahead to the
And
next question.
yeah. Oh, some logo again. Ali, what
Yeah,
do you
but
think it
this one
is?
looks. I see something like a brain, but what does brain represents? Okay, that is a big hint to everyone out there. Again,
Hmm. Google AI platform. Okay, 51% have answered Google AI platform. Let's see what the correct answer is. Yay, something related to brain. Google AI platform.
yes.
Okay, this more about this. Ali, would you like to say?
Yeah, so AI platform enables you to make scalable machine learning models, combining the power of artificial intelligence at Google and give your customers that experience with code, no code. And there are so many different bundles out there. I usually really like that platform and use it on a daily basis. To check it out, it's really awesome. Just for your information,
Hmm.
there are 5 more questions left, so make sure you all your fingers and get ready for the very next question.
Yes. Let's move on to the next question. Unscramble again.
Yeah,
Mm,
again a 3 word, but this looks something familiar.
mm. Just so you know, the words also can be scrambled.
Yeah,
I hope
and
you
what
know
I
that
feel
from the options.
common.
Mhm. Okay. Cloud IoT Core, 91% have answered that. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. Is the question level easy?
Yeah, I would say our audience is smarter.
Oh, okay. Okay, more about Cloud IoT Core. It's fully managed service that allows you to easily and securely connect, manage, and manage the data from millions of globally dispersed services and devices. Okay, that is amazing. And let's move on to the next question.
Guess the logo again. Okay, this logo should be familiar,
Hmm,
but I'm not giving any
something,
hints this time.
yeah, I see a microscope kind of thing there. What is it? Magnifying
Hmm.
glass? Hmm, okay,
I see
let's
a
see.
frying pan.
Foodies. Okay, 57% have answered BigQuery. Hmm, that's a big number. Let's see what the correct answer is. Hmm, BigQuery. Wow, that's really nice.
Yes.
Okay, more about BigQuery. Would you like to share?
Yes, BigQuery enables you to have tetra and petabytes of data at scale, scramble with them, use SQL and query them, and, have some insight on top of that. It is really a big scale data warehousing service which you can use. So do, check it out. You can use Qwiklabs and, maybe query a terabyte data real quick and get response in like 8 seconds. Really powerful.
Wow, sounds good. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Again,
Hmm.
an unscramble with 2 words.
Yeah.
What do you think, Pratisha?
What is the second word? Ragesto. That actually sounds good.
Yeah.
Not sure about the answer, but hmm. Let's see what the audience will answer. Oh, wow. Object storage, 87%. Wow. Let's see what the correct answer
Let's
is.
see. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's
Okay,
amazing.
more about object storage. Computer data storage architecture that manages data as objects, and it's unlike the other storage architectures like file systems. It is really nice. You should check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pratisha, do you see the numbers? They are 5,900 plus participants right now.
Wow, that's really nice. Yeah,
Two
amazing
more
job,
questions to go.
people. Hmm. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Again, a logo. Ali, for you to guess.
Yeah, I would say it looks like an alien though, with 2 years and an antenna. But yeah, let's see what the options suggest.
Or do you think it's a UFO?
Oh, yeah, that could be an option.
Oh, most of the people have
Okay,
answered cloud console.
yeah,
I
so
see
this
Google App
is
Engine
really
also.
amazing. Let's see, because the percentage of dividends here is like 36%, 29, 22. That's like really, really close in between them. Let's see the correct answer.
Hmm. Oh, Google App Engine. Again, majority didn't win.
Yes, yeah, and I guess you have already talked about Google App Engine so much, right?
Yes, I did. Okay, let's move on to the last question, last but not least.
Very last question. Yes,
Okay, guess the
a
logo.
logo
I see so many
with
colors.
I can see this color somewhere.
Hmm, sounds familiar.
Very common
Looks familiar.
across a lot of logos I see.
Yes. Let's see what the people have to answer. Google Cloud Platform and Google Cloud, almost same. Who wins?
Yeah,
Let's see the correct answer. Oh, it's
yeah,
Google
Google
Cloud
Cloud
Platform.
Platform. Yeah, acronym we use
Hmm.
GCP, right? We don't say Google Cloud, we say GCP, Google Cloud Platform.
Yeah. So more about Google Cloud Platform, the platform from Google which provides infrastructure tools and services to build and host web applications. It is highly flexible and secure and scalable. Make sure, of course, you are using it.
Yeah, true. Okay, now that we have finished 15 questions, let's move on. And, for the results part, obviously, we are not going to announce the results right now, but we are going to, announce the results really soon. It will be announced later. So stay tuned on the live stream and make sure you're participating in the sessions and chatting a lot in the live chat, right?
and
So,
you
yeah,
also
uh,
and you also have the one more activity planned. So stay tuned. Over
yes,
to you,
Shilpa and
Shilpa
Sen.
and Chayan. Yes. Okay.
What an overwhelming response. We had close to 6,000 participants in our first quiz. That's really great. Great work there, Pratyusha and Ali. It's time now for our second session. Shilpa, why don't you tell us more about it?
Sure, Chan. That was really an amazing, amazing quiz and really amazing participation. Moving on to the next speaker. As we all know, Google Cloud Platform is a global network that allows us seamless connectivity across the globe. The Professional Cloud Architect certification lays quite an emphasis on the design around networking and infrastructure components. So this session brings us into a case study that has requirements to connect on-premise data centers to Google Cloud and showcase product services available on GCP. Also, watch out for an amazing, amazing demo to understand how you can simulate on-premise DC if you don't have access to one. So for that, we have Dharmesh with us. Dharmesh is a director of technology at Agra Technologies, a Google Cloud expert in cloud and payments, and he has also manages the Google Cloud Mumbai community. Over to you, Dharmesh.
Hi everyone. Welcome to this session of the Google Cloud Community Days India. In this talk, we are going to talk about networking demystified, an important concept in the professional cloud architect journey. I'm Dharmesh Vaya, GDE for Cloud and Payments, as well as the Director of Technology, and we are also a Google Cloud partner. Let us proceed by understanding some important concepts for this journey around understanding networking. The agenda for this talk would be more like an overview. We understand a problem statement, then any problem needs to be dissected to get to the root cause and the solution around it. And then we'll see a very basic thing on how to get certified. Let's get started. In the overview section, we are going to understand the whole objective of this certification and then see how do we proceed with that. The exam objective, specifically when you talk of the professional cloud architect, is such that any cloud architect has to be proficient in all aspects of the enterprise cloud journey, understanding the strategy, designing a solution around it, and the architectural best practices. A cloud architect has to be experienced specifically in certain software development methodologies as well. And multi-tier distributed application is a must-have as well. Now, don't consider this to be too much of a complexity. Yes, there are certain concepts that need an experience, that need some prolonged hands-on and so on, but yes, it comes over time and you can certainly do that. During this exam, now specifically when we talk of the professional cloud architect exam, there is a way in which your questions are not just straightforward MCQs. You are given questions which are MCQs, but you have to refer a case study. It's not an open book, but yes, you can refer certain case studies within your exam console. These case studies are more of a description of some fictitious business problems. It can ask you a business statement, a technology solution, and so on. Now, that's almost like a real life scenario that you get in your exams. And what you have to do is try to visualize and understand the solution that goes behind solving this business problem. Now, in this particular session, we'll be seeing specifically around networking what is the nature of question that you can get, and we'll try to solve it by breaking down the problem statement in a much simpler way. Let us understand the problem statement by reading the case study thoroughly. Let's read this case study properly, or this problem statement. A company which has until now been running their applications on premise is planning to move into Google Cloud. You're responsible for planning the networking into Google Cloud, and the company would like to continue to use their on premise data center and extend into Google Cloud. They have to transfer almost a terabyte of data daily, and additionally they need all their applications should be backed up to ensure like business continuity, so probably they need a DR site or something. One of their requirements is also to have seamless service partner who is already on Google Cloud, and they want to now investigate options to keep the usage of these services fast and secure. How are you going to design the network architecture for this customer? So assume that you are a network engineer or you are a cloud architect and you want to kind of come up with a solution around it. So how will you decide which product to choose, which service to choose out of your GCP services? Now let's try to understand this a bit more. Now, I mean, I'm just you can see these slides, they are focused, highlighted certain keywords which you need to grasp out of any problem statement. Now, I've highlighted problem. What exactly is the problem that we are trying to address out here? The company is not the problem, but their business solution or their technical solution is the problem which we are trying to address. The first keyword is on-premise. They want on-premise and they want to move into Google Cloud. They want networking. So if you see over here, on-premise, Google Cloud, networking. Now keep these concepts in mind. Now, the important part over here is the company wants to continue to use on-premise. They don't want to completely migrate off it. Certain areas, they want to have on-premise, certain functionalities, they want to keep on Google Cloud and so on. A large data transfer is required. So if you see transfer of a terabyte of data daily, so now note that down that they need to have a very large data transfer happening on a regular basis. And of course, the regular ones is like considering that they need a backup for DR side and they need a service partner who is already on Google Cloud. So if I understand and break this problem correctly, this is something that we should come up with. So we are trying to dissect the problem now and find out the expectation out of getting a solution towards it. Now, what are the expected outcomes for this? Now, an important one is on-premise to GCP connectivity. That is the first and foremost thing that you would come up with when designing this particular solution. There is a large data transfer required. There is a backup or a DR site that might be needed, and they need service partner enablement. Out of these four expected outcomes, you would see that the primary ones would actually solve the other areas as well. And the prime one is an on-premise to GCP connectivity. Let us understand what products or what services you would use on GCP. Now, in your exams or in your certifications, you might be asked different ways of addressing or answering this. There might be multiple choice, there might be single options given, so on and so forth, and that's how certifications are. So in this case, the product or the service on GCP that you're going to use is Cloud Interconnect, Partner Interconnect, and Cloud VPN. Now, how did I come up with these products is something that we will see in our next few slides as well as in a particular demo. Okay, let's also dive into these services before I jump into explaining what these services are and then why they are actually used. So just try to understand that Cloud Interconnect, Cloud VPN, and peering with Google is something that is an apt solution for the business problem that we are trying to address. Now let's go one by one, at one step at a time, in understanding these products and these services to kind of deep dive into it further. Let's see Cloud Interconnect. Now, as the name suggests, again, I have a habit of breaking this down or dissecting it. Cloud Interconnect. Interconnect between what? Interconnect between your data center, which is like on premise, and your Google Cloud network, which is your VPC network. Now, an important aspect over here is that you need to understand that it provides low latency, high availability connection between your data center, that is your on-premise, and GCP. Now, there are two aspects to this again. There is a dedicated interconnect and a partner interconnect. The dedicated interconnect is something that is very much suitable for this problem statement that we are trying to address, as it provides a direct physical connection between your on-premise and your Google network. Whereas the partner interconnect, it provides a connectivity between your on-premise through a supported service partner. So now if you just try to recollect the problem statement slide, which says that it also has to try through a supported service provider or a service partner, this partner interconnect also provides that solution. So almost like half of our problem is solved by using Cloud Interconnect. Now, what does Cloud VPN give you? Now, although Cloud Interconnect gives you low latency, high availability configuration, Cloud Interconnect or Cloud VPN would actually give you another option, okay, of connecting anywhere between um, your on-premise network or your data center and any other cloud provider as well. So which means that it not just provides you a connectivity between on-prem and GCP, it also can be used for other cloud providers as well. Although the difference over here and Cloud Interconnect would be that here the bandwidth consumption would be less. If you have a low bandwidth requirement, almost up to like 3 gigs or so on, you can go for Cloud VPN. Whereas if you want a higher bandwidth, go for Cloud Interconnect. Now, peering in specifically in terms of like GCP, now this is not exactly a product offered on GCP, but it's more of a conceptual term that is more of a P2P connection. Now, direct peering is something that you have to configure. And I mean, if you just open your GCP console, you won't find in your menu something like peering with GCP. It's more a value add feature. You can say that you can enable using Cloud VPN itself. Now, direct peering enables you to establish a peering connection between your on-prem and Google's edge networks, which means that you can have a high throughput cloud traffic. Now, why is this important? Is because there can be use cases where you want traffic from various networks or various networks coming onto your on-premise, and you want a very low latency over there. In that case, like direct peering is something that will be helpful. And the important aspect over here is this exists outside of GCP. So unless you have a very specific use case, which is, say, for example, you need to access Google Workspace applications or something of that sort, then the recommended methods to use would be dedicated interconnect or partner interconnect. Else, for like standard peering P2P networks, direct peering is something that you can directly go for. Now, I can understand that this is way too complex for any beginner to understand. And our objective to kind of crack this certification or probably appear and kind of understand the concepts, it still needs to be simplified. Now, any certification, any exam, there has to be some techniques to kind of remember this, or rather to understand these concepts in a much, much simplified manner. here's the whole networking platter for you. There's Cloud Armor, there's Cloud VPN, there's NAT, there's peer networking, there's premium tier, there is regular tier, and so on. So how exactly do you kind of understand which networking area do you need to consider, or which product or which service do you need to use? I know this gets complicated when there are larger, broader use cases, but trust me, there are ways in which you can consider and understand which to use when. Now, of course, networking has too many options, as we saw in the previous slide. How do I choose the right fit? Okay, so just try to understand this decision tree, or a flow chart you can call. Now, depending on your use case, you would actually be using these network services or your products on GCP according to the use case that you have. If you have something like a requirement wherein you need a private IP address, it should not be exposed on the internet, and so on, uh, then Cloud VPN is the way to go for. So if this is the route, and that is how you should be going for. If you do not need a private IP address, which means your data can be accessed openly on the internet. Of course, there can be application layer security, but still you want to openly access it on the internet. Then you directly go for the open over internet. Now comes the aspect where how do you actually decide between your partner interconnect or dedicated interconnect. Now, a very simple concept, partner interconnect versus dedicated interconnect, is that if you want to manage your infra router at your end, the way to connect to GCP, go for a dedicated interconnect, which is this last one on this table. So if you want to manage it by your own, yes, go for dedicated. If you do not want to manage it by your own, leave it to the partner and they would manage it for you. So a very simple way to kind of coming to a decision in deciding the right product and right fit. And likewise, you can similarly choose different products in the same manner. Now, specifically, if we talk of this particular use case, I would say it is very easy to understand and map the requirements. And if we go back to our initial slides, which is understanding or dissecting the problem statement, I would say that half the problem is actually solved by the dedicated interconnect line. It required a direct connection between on-prem and GCP. Dedicated interconnect provides that. You need a high data transfer, almost of the size of, say, 80 Mbps. You can do that using the dedicated interconnect one, and there is a way in which also you can use a 200 Mbps line as well. Whereas if you go for something like a cloud VPN, the bandwidth restriction over there would be something or like almost like a 3 Gbps or something of that range. Now, if that is the level of data transfer that you need, in this case, our problem was describing around a 1 terabyte data transfer daily, which means there is a huge bandwidth requirement. Say, for example, even if I get a 10 Gbps of a daily data transfer, I can transfer 1 terabyte very easily. So that means that dedicated interconnect is the most suitable solution for my case. Now, to kind of elaborate further on this problem, what we would do is try to visualize in a different way. Now, Cloud VPN actually can save a lot of cost for you if you do not want to go for a dedicated interconnect. It is more of a many problems for one solution, or rather many problems with one solution, which is Cloud VPN. It serves on-premise to GCP. It serves on-premise to GCP to other cloud providers as well. And it serves, if you don't have an on-premise, but you have, say, for example, another cloud provider, uh, say, for example, AWS and GCP, you can still use Cloud VPN in that case. In fact, most of the use cases that you talk of are between like multi-cloud environments, or rather an hybrid cloud environments, and Cloud VPN is always the answer for that. Cloud interconnect is something wherein it's a very niche area where you want to specifically use for a particular business area, uh, a high security network and something of that sort. In that case, Cloud interconnect is required. Again, there are costs involved for that. You get a very high bandwidth, very high availability as compared to Cloud VPN. Depending on your use case, you can choose the right fit product. Now, coming to the next slide, which is, yeah, how exactly do you get certified? So now the problem over here is that how do you play around with so many technologies, with so many concepts, and how do you get actually ready for certification? So there's a very simple answer to that. And as you can see from the title of this slide, it's just practice, practice, and practice. So the more you practice, the better you get, the more accurate or perfectionist you get around that. So what you have to do is you need to just read through the case studies as much as possible and try to devise solutions around these technology problems and the business problems that are already shared. Now, trust me, the case studies that are there on the PCA website, which is the Google certification website, they are going to be exactly the same that you get in your exams as well, which means that yes, there is not going to be anything out of the syllabus. And yes, if that's one term that Indians use often in exams, that came out of the syllabus. But yeah, specifically when it comes to the PCA exam, the Professional Cloud Architect exam, the case studies will be readily available. There are, I guess, 3 case studies which are listed on the website. There is Terramerth, there is Dress for Win, and there is like one more which I'm not able to recollect. Sorry. So yeah, these 3 case studies have all different business problems and their corresponding tech solutions associated to it, and each of them can be readily solved using all these concepts that are being shared across this whole series of talks at the Cloud Community Days. Now, what you need to understand is read these case studies as much as possible. Yes, YouTube is also fine. There are ample, videos and solutions available on YouTube, but please, no shortcuts, no dumps, and something like that. Try to do as much hands-on as possible. You have Qwiklabs, you might get free credits on GCP. Try to do as much hands-on as possible, and then you are sure to crack it further. And if you still face issues, you still have doubts in kind of understanding, what you can do in terms of like, if you're stuck up with something, talk to your peers, talk to any of the community members. We can kind of help you. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll be really happy to help you all in terms of like cracking these exams. Or the best possible way is kind of deep dive into it and then try to do as much hands-on as possible. So with that, we'll actually come to a short demo. And with this, we'll jump into the demo where I showcase a possible solution around this business area that we are kind of talking about, this business problem and the technical solution around it. And let's jump to the demo.
All right, so let us get started with an interesting demo to showcase Cloud Interconnect. Now, you just have to go to your GCP console, which is your cloud dashboard, and this is how your dashboard would look like, and all cloud platform services appear to be normal. To search for a product, if you basically know the name, you just have to go ahead and try to type that name over here. So let's try to see. Okay, so I can see like interconnect, which is available in the hybrid connectivity option. I can go from here, or if you want to like kind of navigate into the navigation menu, you can try to do that as well. So in this case, like you'll see several products in this hamburger menu, and you'll see for compute, storage, database, we're interested into networking. And as you see, like in the hybrid connectivity, you'll see something of an interconnect option. Now, in this case, like if you see interconnect, it's actually allowing you to establish high bandwidth, low latency connections between your Google Cloud networks and your on-premise infra, which means that this is the right product which we want for our problem statement that we are trying to solve for. So with that, let us get started. However, for the cost benefit and the high cost that are involved with interconnect, I'll be only demonstrating a piece of this particular interconnect configuration. I'll not be actually placing an order for that. So I do get started with this. Here you see the exact options that we were discussing earlier. You get a dedicated interconnect and a partner interconnect, and a small beautiful diagram out here which says like this is your on-premise network, there's a wire that comes from your VPC network, which is Google, which is like actually connecting a fiber to your equipment. And in case of a partner, there is an intermediary service provider which is actually taking the connection through, and which if you need in that particular scenario, you can go for the partner interconnect, so on-premise to partner service provider and to the GCP network. In this case, we go for dedicated one. We go ahead and continue. So here we say that, okay, I go ahead and add a new dedicated interconnect, and then it will ask me certain configurations to do. So it will first of all ask me certain names to do. So I just type in like demo dedicated interconnect, and you see the huge cost that would be involved. It's like almost $3,400 per month, which is not just for one, but yeah, it will be a redundant line as well. So let us try to choose the location. In this case, like let me see if something is available in India. So yes, I can see something in Chennai, something in Mumbai. So these two, point of contacts are available. Let's choose like Tata IDC. Sorry, I clicked on the actual link. You just have to click on select over here. As soon as I click on select, Tata IDC is selected. You can choose a range of capacity, like for the Ethernet 10 GBs line, you can go for like 8 lines up to 80 Gbps. Or if you want the 100 gig lines, it will be like you can go for a 2 line of 200 ones. So I'll stick to the default one for now for the sake of this demo. I go ahead and click on next. And although like this step is optional, and then like if you don't do this, your SLA won't be covered. So let's try to just see that. Anyways, we're not going to bill it. So we do a demo dedicated backup line. Okay. And in this case, the location, you can either choose Tata or, I mean, only the locations that are available in that zone or that colocation facility. So I can choose a redundant line, which is another facility just as a backup provision. So I choose the other one, go ahead and click on next, and here I can just type my company name, and the technical contact can be something like this. So with that, like I kind of you get a screen to kind of review everything. This is your main line of 10 Gbps, your backup line with the same with a different service provider but in the same location, and then your company details. So once you kind of place an order, you will get some additional details on how to configure this, how to attach it to your network, and so on. And your actual billing takes place basically once your interconnect is configured properly, or basically 30 days after the order is placed, and like whichever is sooner. So that's more of the billing configurations that you need to kind of understand and handle. Now, of course, this is a very long drawn process, I would say, when you kind of go for a dedicated interconnect. For the sake of this demo, let us see another example wherein we simulate an on-prem network within GCP and then try to see how it basically works. All right, so moving on to the next part of the demo, and as we all understand that the direct interconnect option is I mean, at least for the sake of demo, it's going to be a costly deal. Why don't we try something of a simulation on Qwiklabs? The same simulation can be done on your GCP as well, but yeah, this is more of a sandbox environment where you can try. So what we will be trying to do is set up a VPC networking. Basically, it is more of a cloud VPN connection. And as I mentioned earlier, VPN is a sort of an answer for like kind of all your problems. So even in this business case that we are trying to solve, VPN can also potentially solve an issue, solve the problem for you, provided you don't have a very huge bandwidth requirement. Now, in this case, we will be using a Qwiklabs lab to kind of understand this whole flow. I'll leave the links for you and then you can try it out by yourself. I'll give you a quick walkthrough, although this lab is like kind of longer one for like almost an hour or so. But yeah, in this case, I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of the important steps that you need to understand, and then you can try it out by yourself. So what we'll be basically going to do in this lab is that we are going to set up a high availability VPN, which is nothing but an IPsec VPN solution, which will try to simulate a connectivity between your on-prem network and your GCP network through an IPsec tunnel. And the reason it is like actually high availability is because the gateway will have two interfaces, each with their own public IP addresses. And since there's two IP addresses, they'll be chosen from different pools. And they'll be configured with two tunnels, which actually ensures almost like a 99.99% service availability uptime. Now, one prerequisite that I would suggest is that to get more of a deep dive into these kind of labs, especially around these kind of networking concepts, I would say go for networking 101 in terms of the Qwiklab quest, and you should be at least hands-on with understanding all these networking concepts and so on. So in this lab, what is actually going to happen is that we are going to create two VPC networks basically. One is going to act as your actual GCP network, and other one is going to simulate more of an on-prem network. Now, for this demo, it's actually both of them on GCP itself, but one of them will assume that it's like a data center of your own, and then you add a cloud router in each VPC and run two tunnels across the VPN gateway. Now, of course, just to test this out, we'll also like take one of the lines down and then see whether it's actually behaving in an HA fashion or not. And to proceed with this, like we will be running a Qwiklabs steps to kind of set this whole project up. And I leave the admin and the configuration pieces for you all to understand around it. But yes, let me kind of give you a high level scenario of like what is going to happen over here. So we first set up the cloud VPC, which is like the actual VPC on which is like an on Google Cloud, and you create subnets on that. You basically create two subnets over here. You set up your firewall rules so that you can allow SSH and all the required ports and everything. And then you kind of verify the output for the same. Create a dummy VM instance for checking the connections onto it and whether you from one VM you are able to jump onto the on-prem VM or not via the VPN tunnel as well. Then you simulate the on-premise setup. The on-premise setup is again very much similar to how you set up a VPC. It's just like for your understanding, it's going to simulate more of an on-premise environment. And then again, you create a subnet over here, the firewall rules, and just a test instance on this network. So very basic steps that is going to happen. And the actual configuration begins now, which is the VPN setup. Now, in this case, the VPN setup, which actually kind of works, How you actually do that is just by firing certain commands, uh, which is like gcloud, beta compute, VPN gateways, create the VPC, the VPN name, and on what network, which is basically your VPC. So this VPC name over here is your actual GCP network that you're trying to simulate. Then you create the VPN on your on-prem as well, and then we'll see how does this get connected. So now you see the details for each of them. You get a particular output. Well, we'll be actually seeing it on the console as well. I'm just kind of giving you a quick high-level run through of what is going to happen in this whole lab. So you get the details of this VPN, view the details for the same by using the describe command over here, and you see all the details over here. So you see that uh, when you are checking the on-prem VPNs, you're getting two IP addresses over here, whereas even on the demo VPN, at the actual VPC, which is like behaving like GCP, you are also getting two IP addresses over here, which means that these are your two tunnels which are created. Now you create your cloud routers, which is actually going to use for your internal network connections, and which will showcase like which network this is connected on. Now you create your VPN tunnels, then these VPN tunnels are now like kind of ready to create. So this step was kind of more of you can say all the prerequisites are completed. Now let's go ahead and take ahead our VPN tunnels. So you'll create one tunnel for interface 0, one for interface 1, and likewise on the remote gateways as well. So you just have to ensure that tunnel on interface 0 is connected to the interface 0 on remote VPN gateway, and likewise for interface 1 as well. Now you create the first tunnel on VPC demo, and then you create the second tunnel. But here you just have to like kind of be careful of what details you are filling over here, whether uh, yeah, there will be a secret associated, which VPN gateway you are using, so on and so forth. So one is for interface 0, the other is for interface 1. And once you get that, you will get your VPN interface IP address as well over here. And then you similarly have to create two VPN tunnels on your on-prem network as well, which means that one for interface 0, one for interface 1. Likewise, you are getting the outputs for each of them. Then basically this whole VPN concept actually works on a concept called as BGP, which is Border Gateway Protocol, which actually is used for peering between VPNs or between networks, and it works. It's a very standard, I would say, networking term. If you kind of go across the lab of networking 101, you will kind of understand that in a much simpler way. So you kind of configure or basically create the router interface, which is actually the adding the BGP peer along with it, and you get the required output whether it has got created or not. Now the output for this, you will see that your uh, the VPN and the BGP network has been created, and let's verify the router configurations over here. Now in this case, the router configurations, you just have to say like routers describe and the name of the router that you just created to kind of verify its settings. Now, the important part to kind of look out over here will be also to kind of check what is the peer IP addresses, what is the interface name, and you can verify all these details to kind of get the understanding of which VPN tunnels have been kind of linked and connected on these cloud routers. Likewise, you kind of verify it Again, on this VPN, you would still have your firewall rules to configure and set it up accordingly to kind of allow any specific ports or specific protocols that need to be kind of allowed. So it basically just allows all the traffic from VPC demo, which is your GCP network, to your on-prem network. Then you verify the status of tunnels. Basically, the tunnels, there will be like basically 4 tunnels which are created. So the tunnels are basically you just do a VPN tunnels list, and you'll find that there is one on-prem tunnel 0, there is on-prem tunnel 1, VPC, which is your GCP network behaving like one, tunnel 0 and tunnel 1. Now, you verify that each of the tunnel is up and running. So basically here, the detailed status should be like the tunnel is up and running, and similarly, you kind of verify it for the other tunnels as well. So once you kind of do that, you verify the connectivity over VPN. Now, when you kind of SSH into any instance, say from your GCP network to your on-prem network, you should be able to basically connect to it, which means that your peering is successful and you're able to connect via the VPN itself. Now, on this instance, which is like on-prem, you try to ping something like 10.112, which is basically trying to reach instances which are into the GCP network. So you connected on GCP, you reached an instance inside on-prem via the VPN, and from this instance, you again try to ping an instance which is inside GCP. So back and forth again. Uh, don't get confused. It might sound like an inception to you, but yeah, please. All right, so ping it back, and you will see that yes, it is kind of going back and forth. So you will see that the pings would be successful, and there would be like the global routing with VPN. We just have to kind of check that now. So in this case, like the VPN, the high availability one is more like a regional resource, and the cloud router by default only sees routes in the region it is deployed to. In case you want to reach instances which are other than the region where it has been kind of deployed into, you just need to enable global routing. Now, sometimes this is important because you might have additional networks or additional projects that you might want to connect with, and it's always, sometimes good to kind of have a global connectivity as well. And this just allows the cloud router to see and advertise routes from other regions as well. So it's a very simple step, or rather a flag that needs to be enabled. In this case, like the BGP routing mode needs to be set as global. And here you see that your routing config, the routing mode is now global. Now from this instance where you are in on-prem, ping an instance into your Google Cloud Network, instance 2, and pings will be successful. Now let us see the high availability of tunnels. If you kind of delete one of the tunnel and you just kind of confirm that yes, you kind of go ahead, you verify that the tunnel is actually down. So you would actually see that the handshake with peer is broken, trying again soon, and it should actually show the status as no incoming packets. However, if at this stage, if you still go ahead and try to ping the instance in the GCP network from your on-prem network, you would still get the pings successful, which means that your VPN connection is still successful if one of the tunnel goes down and your high availability configuration still works absolutely fine. Let us see that into an actual implementation. Last step is basically to verify from a particular VM instance on the on-prem network and whether the connectivity works fine or not. So let's SSH into the on-prem instance one. So it is just a gcloud compute SSH into this instance. From here, we'll try to ping the IP of an instance in the GCP network, which is 10.1.1.2, and you're getting successful pings, which means it is working fine. Now I have already enabled global routing, and from here we will see whether we are getting these pings of 10.2.1.2, which means that from other regions also we should be able to receive pings as well, so connectivity is established there as well. Now, the important aspect is verifying high availability of tunnels. So let us delete one of the tunnels, but not in from this instance. From here, we actually delete the tunnel. So it says that vpc.tunnel 0, which will be deleted. So yes, okay, so I think I already deleted that. And now you verify that the tunnel is down. How do you verify that? By describing the tunnel on the on-prem tunnel 0, which means you verify its peer basically. So when you verify its peer, it will say that there are no incoming packets from peer, and the status is over here no incoming packets, which means that its corresponding tunnel has been deleted. Now from our instance, let us, which is like the instance between VPC demo and on-prem network, let us see whether the ping is still established or not. So from here, so if I still exit this and I reconnect into this VM, which is on-prem, let us see, yes, the instance got connected. And from here, let me try and ping the instance which is available on my GCP network. So this instance is in, assume that it's simulated in an on-prem environment. From here, I'm connecting to my instance on GCP network, and I have already broken a tunnel. So yes, it still gets connected. That is because I have already had the dual tunnels, or you can say a high availability tunnel over there, which means that our configuration of a high availability tunnel has been configured correctly and successful. Now, that's it for basically this part of the demo. And here are the links basically for you to kind of refer to. I will just kind of zoom in the fonts. Okay. So we are basically doing a simulated and a Google Cloud-based VPC. And this is the second link is the actual demo which we tried right now. And the first one is more like a prerequisite, lab around networking 101 that you can try. So which means with that, like we kind of end our lab, just as a cleanup, you should always try and clean up your entire lab before kind of exiting. So do that, and happy learning. Over to the slides.
All right. So that's it for the demo and this particular session of understanding networking concepts. I'm sure that this half an hour, 40 minutes of networking is actually not very justified in terms of understanding the whole networking concepts. You do need some particular experience, some background in terms of understanding networking terminologies, in understanding what BGPs are, what routers do, what VPN is, what NAT is, and so on. But yes, it comes through practice. And as much as you read the networking concepts specifically on GCP or as well as on other cloud providers, things would get more and more clearer to you. That's me, Dharmesh Vaya, signing off for this particular session. You can reach out to me on Twitter at DRVAYA. or on LinkedIn, just search by my name. I am based at Agraya Technologies. And yes, we are a cloud partner. And as a part of this Cloud Community Day initiatives, we do have some openings for y'all. And if you are a cloud engineer into DevOps, Windows space, feel free to kind of reach out on this link, bit.ly/work for 80. We do certainly have some exciting opportunities lined up for y'all. So happy to onboard certain resources, of course, with a due process involved after that. But yes, take this opportunity to kind of reach out to cloud partners like us and expand your career and reach as well. Thank you so much for joining in today. Have a wonderful Cloud Community Day and hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dharmesh. That was an exciting insight around the professional cloud architect exam. I think most of us used to wonder what types of questions will be there if I try to crack these certification exams. Dharmesh has given a lot of insight about it. What a great start to the event. What do you think, Shilpa?
Indeed, Chan, that was really, really amazing. And as you guys have already noticed in Dharmesh's talk, he has already talked about jobs which are open in Agraya technology. If you want to look out for that jobs, go to our website cloudcommunitydays.com and look out for the jobs portal. You'll find a lot of exciting jobs over there. So, Chayan, this is just the beginning, right? We still have a lot of informative sessions and fun activities lined up. Now, with us, we have Divyan Shantanu as well, who will be taking us through the whole of the day. And over to you, Divyan Shantanu.
Thank you, Shilpa and Chen. Hey, hi, namaste, namaskar, vandhanam, and vanakkam, India. Hope you people are doing good besides the COVID. Are you all excited as we kick off the 2 days of Google Cloud Community Days, India packed with so much learnings and lots of fun? Here we are today with a very special occasion to make you all smile, bring you all together and share, learn, and grow collectively. Before going further, let me introduce myself. I am Divya Krishna from GDG Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. I also manage the Women Tech Makers chapter in Coimbatore, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today to attend the following interesting sessions. How are you doing, Shantanu? Can you tell us more about the Google Cloud communities?
Hey, hi Divya. Thank you so much. I'm doing fine. And well, by the way, hi everybody. Namaste from Nagpur. My name is Shantanu. I am the co-organizer of GDG Nagpur. It's indeed a great pleasure to welcome you all to India's biggest and the most happening developer conference, Google Cloud Communities India 2020. We hope that you all are doing safe and are tuned in from your comfort of your homes. We have a packed schedule for the coming next 2 days, so stay tuned to us. First things first, this is the first time that all the Google developers groups across India have come together to make this wonderful event happen. I don't want to say this has been easy. This has been pretty challenging for each one of us, but we are glad that we reached here and we could make this happen. On on the way, we made quite new friends. We met with people from across the globe, across the country, from diverse from diverse demographies, and yes, it felt like a fortune smiled on us.
True, yeah. To those who aren't aware of GDG, here's a brief on it. GDG, also called as Google Developers Groups, is present in more than 35 cities in India currently. Not just that, around 1,000 such chapters are present across the globe. In a way, we are a big family now. Google Cloud Community India happens annually, and hence it's a big celebration mixed with more learnings and fun. While talking about fun, hey Shantanu, tell me how did your pandemic days go by? I didn't hear that from you.
Well, by the way, I was thoroughly engaged in organizing and also being a part of the virtual events that were conducted by the Google communities. Starting with the IWD 2020, then the Web Dev Live, then the amazing DevFest 2020, and of course, how can we forget the DSC OMG? We also had Cloud Next, Google Cloud Next, and also 11 weeks of Android, we had a very interesting format for each one of the events, and we saw a lot of amazing people, participating from across the country. It was an amazing pandemic for me, by the way.
That's amazing. We are never apart when our passion for tech remains the same. So let's make the best use of the online sessions happening at Google Cloud Community Days India and enjoy learning every bit for the next couple of hours. Well, moving forward, here we are to our next session, the principles of data engineering. We are very happy and delighted to have Mr. Antriksh Gupta. Antriksh is the founder and CEO at Danalytic. He is one of the top 10 data scientists in India, also one of the early data science practitioners in India. His research work involves computer vision learning on medical records. I'm amazed how he's filled with more than plenty of talents. Here's to the machine learning facilitator of MLCC Study Jam from Google developers. There you go. Over to you, Antriksh.
Hello, welcome to the Cloud Community Days India. We are here to be emphasize the people, those who are interested to be a Google Cloud certified engineer in any of the tracks like associate cloud engineer, professional cloud architect, or the professional data engineer, or you are interested for the machine learning. This session is going to be for you only. So in these sessions, I'm talking about the principles of the data engineering, and the main topic is over going to be here, why the data engineering is the most important part before of any AI or ML or any machine learning projects. So when we talk about the machine learning or AI, we directly talk about the models, we directly talk about the things, but what are the principles, what are the things that we have to be follow before going to jump directly over the models or building or writing your code for the machine learning or AI or data science that you want to do. And when we are talking about data engineering, first thing you have to be know that what is data engineering and what is the roles and responsibilities of the data engineer. So data engineering requires the knowledge of how to derive the value from the data. Like suppose if you have some of your data sets and you want to put some insights onto that, so what are the things that you have to be follow? Because if you are using some sensitive data of any BFSA domain or any manufacturing industry like a pharma, so these are the very sensitive and the crucial data. So what are the things you have to be follow for the security reasons that you have to be used to it very well. And it's a totally a practical engineering skills to move data from point A to point B. And when we talk about to moving the data from a point A to point B, that's mean we are considering the data traveling through pipeline. So uh, in a professional data engineering certification, this is the most important part to create the data pipeline. So your data should travel from a point A, that can be your Google Cloud storages, that can be your any databases, to be insightful visualizations and your machine learning model to be point B. So this tunnel should be very secure, very um, plain tunnel should be work with the data sets, so you do not face any issue at the time of importing or exporting your data into the machine learning model. And to follow these are the complete resources, like a data engineer is responsible to connecting the multiple data sources to a point A. There might be chances your data will come from a multiple sources, and it will just put into a one machine learning model. So it's very crucial point to be pointed out the your database or things to be normally on major uh, one point, that is your A, and traveling towards the B. So that is the main job role for the data engineer, and it's a very important part for the data engineering certifications as well. So before I start the principle of data engineering, so there are some things like you should understand the nature of your data and the pattern of your data. So nature of your data comes like it's a categorical data, it's a uh, numerical data, what kind of data it is, and the patterns of it, what you are going to do. You are going to extract it, you're going to ingest it, that data into a pipeline for machine learning model. Also, so when we are starting the principle of data engineering, so design, the three things comes in my daily day-to-day routines works: design for immutable data, creating the data lineage, and the gradual and the optional data validations. So your data should be immutable, and it should know where it is originated, and its gradual and the basic data validation should be there. So you do not face at the time of your model validations as well. So if you talk about the immutable data, so immutable data is a core to design a system that is easy to test. If you know your data is not going to be rather change onto the dev model or the production side or the test side, so it is very easy to do that, and that is item but and that is reproducible from at any stage. So if I just take an example for the banking application, if your database, if suppose a bank called ABC Bank, and they are just printing the passbooks of the bank statement or just printing the bank statements, so we always see the closing balance of it. So this closing balance in their database, the only of one field, and every time when it is generating the closing balance for each and every customers, that particular source code will be executed, but that value will be changed every time. But it is not going to be changed for each and every user. Suppose if a value change, if customer a account value changed to $130, so there's no way, there's no method to be changed for all the users closing balance will be changed to $130. Okay, so this is called stored as an immutable sequence of events that collectively tells the whole story about that. Like it has started from 1 to 2, then it deducted the if suppose we have $130, we just debited $15, so now we have the $105 is remaining. So this is the immutability of the data, and that we have to monitor those things as well. Then creating the data lineage. So immutable data enables you to create the data lineage. And the data lineage on its own, the ability to trace and understand why data was muted a certain way at a specified step in the pipeline. So on the architectural and the data engineering side, there's a need to create the observability of the data pipeline by tracing the data lineage from which point your data is generated. Like if we have a set of like a starting balance was $130, then we have deducted the $15, it's spent the $5, now we have the $110 is remaining. So we should know it was started from 130, now 110 is my closing balance. So this 110 should know, yeah, it's before this 110 we deducted the $5, and then he spent the before to that the $10 as well, and before to that the starting balance was $130 for the customer. And there is some optional validation is also required, like while data science needs to know the contextual assumption of the data as well. It is a responsibility of the data engineering team to understand and document the numerical and the data type assumptions as well, because it takes the evidence to differentiate valid assumptions for invalid ones. It doesn't make sense to have strict validation at the front door. So the main thing, suppose you are expecting you will get the apple in a variable value, but you get the orange. So that is an invalid validation. So this is called the pattern matching in a data pipeline creation generally, and we have to be create the pattern, match the patterns of our data. So when we are talking about the matching the patterns of our data, so there are multiple things is available. We can use the core Python languages as well, a scripting language too for the pattern matching. We can use a Scala language as well for pattern matching. But the data validation and other things that we have to be performed very regularly, we have to be performed these situations. So if we talk about a problem statement, like a data engineer transforms the data into a usable format for analysis. Only we have to be analysis the data as of now. And this data will go for our data scientists or the machine learning engineers, those who will use this data. How they will use it, we'll see in the next slides. So suppose that you are a data engineer working on a simple competitor to the Uber called ABC. This Uber is a taxi ride application, and you are working for its competitor name called ABC. Your users have an app on their device through which they access your services. They request a ride to a destination through your app, which gets routed to the driver, who then picks them up and drops them up off also. So after the ride, they are charged and have the option to rate their drivers as well. Okay, so there are two things that helps your ABC company to uh, to meter their customers very well, like on which route a customer is going regularly, or if the customer X is going to regularly from point A to point B, and they are use on at the again they are coming home by point B to point A again, so they can offer some of the discount coupons. What kind of cabs I prefer? I prefer the hatchback, I prefer the sedan, I prefer the luxury cars. So what kind of vehicle or the fleet the customer is preferring? So these are the things that happens through the data pipelining. And when this data goes to the machine learning model, and then so on, it just give you the recommendation over the mobile applications. This is another topic for machine learning. So let's just dive into the architectural side. But first is your part one, that is a mobile app for the user that is built on application engine, like a compute app engine for the GCP component. Then you have a mobile app for the drivers as well, that is also built onto the app engine. And then we have the part three, that is a server that can pass requests from user to drivers and handle other details like updating payment informations, rating to the driver, selection of fleets, or you can say giving the reviews of the ride. So these are the multiple service applications that is going to use that. So the big picture, we have one main server over here, and we have driver applications, we have user applications. User is interacting with the driver through our server applications, and drivers are interacting with our with the user with a basic server applications as well. So this is a very high level architecture. Let's just cut it down in a small pieces. Process for the data management. What kind of data we can get it from this user driver management side? So there's the database that backs you, the main app that contains user and the driver information. This is our master databases. Okay. Then we have the server analytics logs, which holds the server access logs that contains one line per request made to the server from the app, like at what time I open the app, what I just search over it, which route I search it, whether I search it by car or by area or by available services by the application. Then we have the server error logs. We are maintaining the error logs as well into the server, what problem the customer faces, whether I was able to log in on a time, what was the response time for me to logged into the application. So these contain all the server side errors generated by your app. So this is only for the server side, not the client app side. And this app analytics logs, the app events log. These contain informations about what actions user and drivers took in the app. For example, you would log when they clicked a button or updated their payment informations, whether I'm using their own wallet or I'm using my debit card or credit card. I saved it for future payments as well. So these all data is updating in our logs. App error logs, these contains information about errors in the app, like I was I was adding my credit card and it was not authenticated by any of the things, like my pin was mismatched, my expiry date was mismatched, and it was just generated the error log and it is not added into my payment informations. Or I was just waiting to be get the OTP done for my payment wallets as well. So there might be a number of errors can be there. So we have to be monitor those errors as well. And then the third is the main stage games, where we store the ride database. So this contains information about a single ride for a user, driver pair. So means we are tagging this user and driver, user A with the driver X, and contains status information on the right, like at what time I booked the cab, what route is selected, what route driver selected, and we can monitor those as well through the data pipelines, like it was the suggested route by the application, or it was or the driver follows their own route, or the customer is suggesting the new route as well. So there's multiple things that we can put into the right databases. And then it comes the customer service database. So this contains information about the customer interaction by customer services agents. It can include voice transcripts, email logs, how much time I generated the invoices manually, and what was my preferred route for uh, traveling from point A to point B, which type of car I selected always, and what time I started my. Generally, if you see the mobile applications, if you are opening a mobile app for the consumer centric application, in a regular time, you will get some notification for that particular of time. So we can monitor those as well. So this is the high level architecture of it. So where you have we have one server applications as well. Then it is having the server logs. It's having the multiple users. So this is the main customer focused architectures. So like if you just see over here the apps logs and the server error logs and users, these are our users, and it is just connecting with the drivers. So this is the multi user and driver kind of a broader image of our architecture that we generally follows. So the app engine and the driver app application and the driver application, we can use the Google Cloud App Engine as well. And for data pipelining, for migrating the data as well. So we can use the BigQueries as well. We can, if we are just going to use the serverless data pipeline, we can use that as well. So this data pipeline is more focused topic on your in data engineering certifications if you are planning. So how you just validate your data sets, if you are using your big queries for data processing. So what are the commands you should follow for big queries as well. So you have to be very selective for these kind of solving these kind of questions, because so now the main problem, now the main things is started. Let's say a data scientist uh, wants to analyze the user action, like history, and I want to give them the user some recommendations. Okay, you are starting from point A to point B. We are just checking their patterns, like if I'm traveling, if the customer is traveling from point A to point B. So we just check the pattern of the last 15 days or last 30 rides of it, where it just go for most, what type of cabs he's selecting, and whether he's just checking the prices or not, or directly he's just selecting the premiums or the luxury cars or luxury cabs that is available. So we can give the recommendation to that only. Okay, so also, if you need to combine the information from the server access logs and the app events logs, so these are the basic major, all the databases should be onto the one side. Okay, so there are server logs we are getting the apps log, we are using the customer logs, we are having the ride data as well. So now we have the 4 major data points. Now we have to be put this data into a one machine learning model to give the customer a recommendation. Okay, so that is called a completely a data pipeline. Like suppose that should not be the case if we are giving the right access or the right details for recommendation to machine learning model for customer A. So all the errors, all the logs should be available for that particular customer A only. That should not be the case if we are providing the right details right from the right database for customer A, and the server logs is getting for the customer B or C, anything else. Okay, so the approach that we can follow: gather app analytics log from user device regularly, combine the app analytics log with any server logs entries that reference the user, and creates an API endpoint that returns the event history of any user. So these are the main approaches. So once the data is generated, you should immediately put into your master or your machine learning model. We should not wait as a backup of it. So so whenever we just do, so we have the multiple components for the data processing in the real-time data pipelines. Like if we talk about so in data engineering, there comes a topic called Hadoop. In Hadoop, we have for complete package for the real-time data as well as runtime data, and the batch processing both is possible. So when we are talking about the batch processing, we can use the Spark as well for creating the data pipeline by using the Kafka, or we can use the Flume as well, where you have the source, channel, and sync. So source multiple, you can use it like your multiple app databases, server databases, write databases, those things you can use that. And on top of that, you can use that the sync. Generally we use the file system, so we can easily take a backup of it, and the sync will be our endpoint. It can be our machine learning model, or it can be our separate databases where we are just accumulate all the data points from multiple applications and just putting to the one database, and that database will hit to the endpoint for this database will be our machine learning model. So roughly the operations in a data pipeline consists of the following phases: is ingestion. So first you have to ingest the data into a pipeline. This involves gathering in the needed data. Processing. This involves processing the data to get the end result you want. Then you have to be store it. This involves storing the end result for fast retrieval as well. And the access. You will need to enable a tool or user to access the end result of the pipeline. So ingestions, we are in our previous example, if we see, we ingest the data from server log, application log, user application, driver applications, write database. So these are our ingestion points. So we have the multiple data points that we are ingesting the data. Then we have the processing. Now we have the processing, like we have to create the lineage of our data sets. We have to create the validation of our data sets. Like suppose your write database is using the timestamp, but in your model, it is only using the time, no timestamp value. So you have to validate those things at the time of processing. And once you have processed your whole data, now you have to store data for the faster retrieval. And when we are retrieving the data, this data should be available for access it, whether you're machine learning by your machine learning model, or if you want to just create a dashboard of it, the data dashboards, clean data dashboards, then you can use the data studio, or you can use any third-party tool for general access of your data set that you have processed through there. So this is the whole process of the data pipeline and data engineering things. So if you just see, we have the data, we are putting into the multiple stages, we are performing the operations over here in each step, and the data will go again to the storage. So this is called, this small process is called, like suppose we are collecting the data from the multiple sets, like this data came from app database, this database came from the server databases, or anything other databases as well. So these small calls as a pipe, and when we join these complete pipelines by processing on the operations of whole data, that is your complete data pipeline. So a data pipeline, input data is transformed in a series of phases into the output data set. That's the core definition of a data pipeline. So when we are doing the data pipeline, so that will go to completely in our phases, and at the end it just aggregate whole data points that we want to put into the major data sets, and that will be our output. So if we talk about the GCP Professional Data Engineer certification, the Google Cloud Professional Data Engineer is able to harness the power of Google Big Data capabilities that games your BigQuery, that covers your data fusion, data pipelines, and other components as well. It is just decision by collecting, transforming, and visualizing the data. So first thing is that designing the data processing system, that is your pipeline. It is having the major components in your examinations. Then we have the building and operating data processing systems. It is having the part of the operationalizing the machine learning models as well, and then the ensuring the solution quality. So in ensuring the solution qualities, we just check whether we are providing the complete security compliances. We have the IAM setups for our data sets, and those things as well. And if we are using the machine learning models, what kind of model we are using. We are using the TensorFlow or any other model we are using it. So we can just operationalize over here. Building and operationalizing the data processing system, what kind of data processing we are doing. We have the like classified data, or we have the structured data or unstructured or semi-structured data, what kind of data we are using and just putting into the operational model. And the first part that is major that we have covered in today's this session, that is the designing the data processing system. It covers the create the complete data pipeline, though I have only given the overall experience of data pipeline, how it's created, how it works. But organization, there are, this is a very broad field, like a data science, it's a data engineering, also a very broad field. You have to be get the context of your data sets. You have to be check the nature and the pattern of your data, and the speed of your data, and analyzing on the end-to-end points for your point A to point B. When you are when your data is traveling, just check whether your data is covered all the security aspects or not. If it is case sensitive, sorry, not the case sensitive, if it is a highly sensitive data for the customers, so we have to be make sure that all the security aspects will be available inside your data pipeline, like that you have created the VPN accesses, you put your cloud instance of the complete VPC, you are using the private VPC as well. And suppose if you are using the anonymity, if you are building the anonymity of your data sets and managing those things as well, you are using sometimes the smart contracts as well for the building the anonymity and the securities levels. So that you have to be make sure what kind of product is yours for processing the data. And if you want to be the GCP professional data engineers, you can one thing that I can advise you. So the first thing, everybody can be clear the exam. There's a no hard and fast to be, no, this is the pattern that you have to be do it. No, we only get the 50 questions. But the main thing is you have to be very calculative with your times at the examination. Okay, so what happens generally, people ask me, okay, we have the 50, 60 questions and we have only the 2 hours for this examination, how we can just handle it? Only the things is just reading the question first and just try to, because all the options that you will get it's nearly similar to all your correct answers. So the first thing, you have to know how to manage your time for the examination, and you should get some spare time as well for reviewing your exam. Okay, so you can connect me with me through LinkedIn, GitHub, and the Twitter. This operation solutions will be available onto the GitHub post this session, and you can just check it on my GitHub as well. So solutions will be available for this mobile app or data processing. Those things will be available on my GitHub profile. I'll make sure just run at your environment. You will get it the complete documents how you can set up your machines for creating the data pipelines as well. With the sample data sets, you will get it over there. Okay, you can check me onto the Twitter as well. And thanks for connecting onto the Cloud Community Days. I hope it will be very fruitful and the knowledgeable sessions for you that helps you to clear your doubts for the data engineering certifications and the examinations. If you need any kind of help at the time of preparation for your certifications, you can directly contact me onto the screens on LinkedIn or on GitHub or on my Twitter handles. I'm pretty much active onto the LinkedIn, so you can directly drop me a message that you're coming from the Google Cloud Community Days India online. So we are all are very much happy to be support you in your examination. Thank you so much.
What a spectacular session it was. Thank you, Antriksh. For those who have further queries on the explained topic, you can anytime contact Antriksh via his LinkedIn.
That was something really cool and out of the box. Thank you again, Antariksh.
Yeah. Well, coming to the next speaker.
Hey, Divya, wait. Don't you think you're forgetting something?
What?
This is a fun time. So let's jump into some interesting games.
Oh, cool. By the way, are you going to do this?
No. We have Sisti and Monica who are ready to host this.
Oh, wow. Over to you, Shishti and Monica.
Hello, everybody. I'm Srishti Sahani, and I have Monica here with me.
Hi everyone, happy evening. This is Monica from GDG Cloud Bangalore. I know. First of all, thank you so much everyone for joining in on Friday evening. I know it's very hard to wrap up our office work, so I don't want to take you much of your time. So, Susti, let's start the activity now.
Okay, so I would request all of you to please hop on to slido.com and log in using the code hashtag A665, or you can also scan the QR code that is on your screen at the moment. So I can
Yeah,
see a
and
lot of you
don't,
have started joining already. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and don't forget to join with your Twitter ID. If you're not having one, please create one and join using it because we are going to contact you using your Twitter ID.
So what do you
Yeah.
think, Monica? How many people will be joining in for the quiz today?
From morning, I can see there are like 8K plus attendees for the sessions. So I'm hoping that we will have a lot more joining in for the activity.
So
But
let's see.
yeah,
Let's wait.
yeah, it's just seconds or it's a minute, but we have like 2.5 plus K. Wow, it's good number.
Yeah, yeah. I think let's aim for double the amount. Let's wait for at least 4,000 to 5,000 people to join, and then we can start with the quiz.
Yeah, so Srishti, let's give one more minute for our attendees. I guess the number is going. So, yeah. So, folks, all you have to do is you have to join through you're using your Twitter ID. If you're not having one, please create one because we are going to contact you with using your Twitter ID.
I think we should start with the quiz, Monica. Should we proceed? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
guess we can because it's, yeah. First question here for you. Which one word exists in this crossword? You'll have 80 seconds and it's already 71, 70. So, folks, guess which word is over here? Susti,
can
can
you
you
see?
guess anything?
Okay, I see cloud over there. I don't know if cloud is in the
Yeah,
options. Can you see cloud?
in the last column, right? Yeah, I can also see cloud,
Yeah.
but I don't think it will be that much easy this question. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
let's see some other word as well.
Yeah, I can also see data over there. I can see data. Can you see data? Yeah.
Data, no, no. In which row?
Yeah.
I'm not
I
able to
think it's in the
see.
sixth column. It's in the sixth column. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
but I'm not able to see anything cloud related. But yeah, its time is going up. So, folks, you are having 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Your time is up. Yes, Srishti, we have a good number on data fusion. Did you see the data
Yeah.
fusion in the crossword? I
No, I
believe.
only saw data. I didn't see data fusion.
Okay, so let's see what's the answer. It's chatbots. Really, I didn't see this word at all. But 37%
Okay.
gave the correct answer. It's nice. Congratulations, those who got it correct. So let's move on to the next question, Srishti.
Okay, so this one is a crossword as well. So which one of the word exists in this crossword? Please find the words that you can and mark the options accordingly. Monica, can you see anything?
No, no, no. Not, I'm not getting any cloud related word like something. No, but
I'm looking as well. I can't see anything either. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This
Yeah,
one is a
it's
bit
really
trickier.
too
This is
hard.
a bit trickier than
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last one.
I'm also feeling the same. It's too hard, I guess. This one,
Yeah.
because no, I'm
Okay.
not
I think
having.
I found a word, but I won't say it out loud. Have you found something?
Oh, no. Oh. Okay, then after getting this, you have to tell the answer.
Okay. Okay.
Don't
Okay.
say it's cloud. Because cloud I can
Yeah.
also see.
I think all of these words have all of these crosswords have cloud in them somewhere.
Yeah, time is up. Three, two, one.
Okay.
Boom.
So
Okay.
I can see a lot of you have answered Anthos and cloud cover. Were you able to see cloud cover, Monica, or
No.
Anthos?
No. Absolutely no. I didn't actually. I
I
didn't.
think I saw dialogue flow somewhere, but it's not in the option, so I think I was wrong. So let's see what is the right answer.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of you got correct. It was Anthos. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, so let's move on to the third question.
Sure. So this is also again a crossword. So folks, find out the word. Which one? Yeah, here now I'm not able to see cloud. This is changed. Not even cloud. Then what is the
I
word?
think we should look for cloud. At least we'll be able. I can see cloud.
Oh, great. Let me find out then.
Yeah. Look for it.
Yeah.
So, can you see
Yeah, now
anything other
I'm
than the
able.
cloud?
I just tried finding cloud. Okay, I'll look into the other word. Something, at
Yeah,
least
please.
something. No. Oh,
I think there's a word that is in the first few columns. Like, can you see it?
Is it? Okay, I'll try to
Yeah,
find
a cloud-related word. A cloud-related word.
cloud related word, but not cloud,
Yeah,
because I know it's in last column, that cloud.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't have
Yeah,
much time
timer
left.
is
Faster,
yeah,
Monica.
timer is five, four, three, two, one, boom. Time is up. Oh, constraints. No, I
Were
didn't
you able
see.
to find constraints?
But
No, I
68%
couldn't
people
either.
said that constraints, then I think it's the correct answer. So let's see the correct answer.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
Congratulations,
60?
everybody.
All the questions are crossword questions?
No, actually, we have first five questions as the crossword questions, and then we have some regular cloud MCQ questions lined up for people as well. So, all of you who can't find the words, please don't get disheartened. There are a lot of questions for you as well.
So, two more questions for fun, right? We can have
Yeah.
fun, two
Two more
more
questions for
questions.
this.
Okay. So, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, so this one is a cloud crossword as well. Just try to find the word. Monica, do you see anything?
No, my eyes got blind.
I think it's good that we are not participating.
Exactly, otherwise, I'll get 0 out of 5.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to find a single word. Okay, so I think I see IoT somewhere, but I don't know if that is cloud related or not. Can you see it?
IoT? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. IoT is not.
Okay.
I
I
would,
don't think it's
yeah, in the
cloud
first
related,
column,
right?
right? Yeah, in the first column, I can
Yeah.
see. Yeah. But
Yeah, but I don't think that's
it's
cloud
IoT
related.
is, yeah, if IoT is the option, then I click on it. But no, I don't think that much easy
Okay.
because we found it. So I don't think it will be that much easy. Because I,
Yeah,
no,
that's true.
a big no.
Okay, the
Okay.
time is almost up, guys.
Yeah, almost up. So you're having five,
Five.
four, three, two, one, seven. Okay. So, yeah,
So
we
a
got
lot of people
memories
answered
too.
memories too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
73%.
let's see what the right answer is. Oh, it was memory store. Congratulations, everybody. I think we should move on to the next question now.
So, this is also one more crossword question. So, folks, find out the word. Which word? I'm not able to see any word.
I can find words, but they're not cloud related. I
Ah,
can see app, but I
finally.
don't think app will be a word. I can see cloud
No, no.
again.
Finally, I saw one word which is related to cloud in the first glance itself, but I am sure it won't be the answer. But once options come up, I'll tell you which one is that word
Okay,
which I saw.
okay,
I
okay.
think
That's
that's the
great.
answer. That's the answer.
I'm
At
still
least I got
looking.
one answer.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah. After that, if that option is there, then congratulations to me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, there are many clouds in this one.
Yeah, I saw like 3 of them.
Yeah, me too.
So definitely cloud is
Wow.
not one of the options.
Actually, the one I told it starts with cloud. So, okay,
Probably, yeah, maybe. Let's see.
let's see. Wow. The one I
Were you
got is
able
not
to
there.
find file store? Were you able to find
Files?
file store?
No, no, no. I thought it's cloud storage. Cloud storage is in the last column, but yeah. Let's see the
Okay,
answer
okay,
one.
okay.
File store. Wow, congratulations to 64%
Congratulations,
people.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
from
yeah.
here onwards, you're going to have 20 seconds for each question. So, yeah, please be quick on your hands and select the right answer. So, let's move on to the next question, Srishti.
Okay. Okay, so the command line command to create a cloud storage bucket is you have 4 options: gcloud gsutil gcloud bucket, gsutil bucket. So, what do you think the answer is, Monica?
Okay, most of the people answered G Cloud MK bucket. 55% answered. So, yeah. Srishti, let's say the answer, which is correct.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
It's GS Util
It was
MB.
gsutil
11% people answered. Congratulations to those 11%. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's move
Now
on to the
let's move
next
on to the
question.
next question.
If you create two buckets for cloud storage, which command do you use to synchronize the contents of the two buckets? gsutil rsync, gcloud cpsync, gcloud rsync, gsutil cpsync. If you create two buckets for cloud storage, it's gsutil
Okay.
rsync. Has
34% people
34%.
have answered.
Let's see the
Okay,
correct
what do you
answer
think the
now.
answer is?
No idea. Wow, congratulations to 34% people
Congratulations, everybody.
who opted GS Util rsync. That's the correct answer. Yeah, I guess we can move on to the next question, Srishti.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So the availability of CPU platforms can vary between zones. To get a list of zones, to get a list of all CPU types available in a particular zones, which of the commands do you use? So you have gcloud compute zones, gcloud IM zones, gutil zones, and gcloud compute regions list.
It's a bit lengthy question. It took us time, more than 20 seconds, but yeah, 37% people
Okay.
answered it. G Cloud Compute Jones describe. So let's see the
Let's look
answer.
at the right answer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
congratulations.
Okay, so
So,
we are done with half of the questions already. We have 7 more questions left. So if any of you were not able to answer the first 5 questions and the first few questions, this is the time for you to catch up. So let's move on to the next question now.
to create a custom role, a user must possess which role? I To create a custom role, a user must possess which role? Seems to be every option is ending with create.
Yeah,
Wow. Compute
33%.
dot create has having 33%. So let's see the correct
Yeah,
answer
let's
now.
yeah.
It's IAM
Okay,
dot code.
31% of people did it correctly. That's great.
Wow, congratulations to those who's opted correctly.
Let's move on to the next question now. Question number 10. So, after uploading files in cloud storage from any web app, to check the file size and update the user's total storage using their account, a serverless option for performing this action is okay. So, you have to select the serverless option.
It's too lengthy. The question is too lengthy.
Yeah.
Cloud
Yeah.
storage. People
Okay.
have opted, 50%
50%
people
people
opted
did it
cloud
as cloud
storage.
storage.
Yeah,
Okay, let's see what the right answer is.
it's cloud
Cloud
functions.
function. Congratulations to the 21% of people who did it right.
Yep.
Okay, now let's
Okay.
move on to the next question.
In Kubernetes engine, a node pool is a subset of nodes across clusters, a set of virtual machines managed outside of Kubernetes engine, a set of preemptive virtual machines, a subset of node instances within a cluster that all have the same configuration.
Okay, do you have any idea?
No. Yeah, this answers are lengthy actually. But 47% people answered a subset of node instances within a cluster that all have the same configuration. So let's see the correct answer.
Okay,
Wow,
this is the
congratulations,
correct
this
answer.
47%
Congratulations,
people.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, folks, you have 4 more questions remaining. So, if you are falling a little bit back, so catch up for the next questions. Yeah. Let's move on to the next question.
Okay, the GCP service for storing and managing Docker containers is cloud source repositories, cloud build, container registry, and Docker repository. So, what do you think this is, Monica? I have no clue.
But there is not much time for taking chits actually. 20 seconds is too hard.
I know. Okay, so let's see how many people have answered.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
Docker repository.
37% people have
Yeah,
answered Docker repository. Let's see if this is the right answer.
yeah, let's see which one is.
Okay,
Container
container
registry.
registry. Congratulations to the
Great.
32% of people who answered this.
Yeah, but Srishti,
Okay.
I wanted to answer the next question, but I don't know how much difficulty that question will have actually.
Okay, no
Let's see.
problem. Let's move on to the next question. I think we should move on to the next question.
Yeah. Code for cloud functions can be written in Node.js and Python, Node.js, Python and Go, Python and Go, Python and C. Let me think. I'll tell the answer for sure.
Okay, think about it.
Which one will be the answer? Which?
What is the answer, Monica?
Node.js, Python and Go. I'll
I
go with
would
the
go with the
64%.
majority vote. Me as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Okay,
quite
let's
a
see
much.
if
That's
the
a safer one.
64% people are correct. Let's see
Yeah,
if these
if
people are
they are
correct.
correct, I will also be correct. So let's see the correct answer.
You were wrong.
It's fine. Subset of the answer is there. Don't pay us any
Yeah,
Python.
okay.
Yeah, but those
Okay,
21%
okay.
who has selected, congratulations.
Okay, let's move on to the
Still
next question now.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what is the fundamental unit of computing in cloud computing? Physical server, virtual machine, block, and subnet. Okay, I think I know this answer. Let the options
Is
come
it?
up and then I'll tell you what the answer is.
Okay.
This one is easy. I think this one is easy.
Okay, then great. Let's see then.
Okay,
Okay,
majority
so
of people agree with me. I think it's a virtual machine.
okay, then let's see the correct
Let's see if
answer.
I'm correct. Yeah.
The metrics out there, and which one should we be using? So the most popular metric out there is accuracy. So you might have heard this a lot of times, where it tells you how many images you predicted correctly and upon the total number of images that you've seen. So although this is a very, very popular metric, there is a huge drawback to this metric. So let's take the same use case that we have currently. So one of the words that was mentioned in the question was that there is a very small amount of defect present. So when we have very skewed data, we might have had about, let's say, out of the 1 lakh images, 90,000 of them might be normal data and very few might be data with defect. So when we have this imbalance in the data, accuracy is not a good metric to measure. So we need to use other metrics like recall, precision, AUC in order to figure out how good a model is. So like we saw in the test, we saw that it was supposed to predict it as a defect, but it did not predict it as a defect and it said it was a tile. So this is called a false negative. And recall is a metric that measures this particular thing. So the higher the recall we have, the more the model is able to avoid these kind of situations where where it misclassifies it, in the sense that it calls something that should have been a defect not a defect. Uh, in the same, it becomes really critical when we have, let's say, a healthcare example, and you were supposed to detect tumors. And let's say you take a scan of a person and you tell the person that, hey, you don't have a tumor, when they actually have a tumor. So these are cases where recall is very important and recall must be very high. Whereas precision, on the other hand, is the inverse of it. What precision mentions is the fact that it says that, hey, you should have classified it as normal tile, but you have misclassified it as as a defect. So these are cases when, let's say, a person who doesn't have tumor has to undergo all of these treatments in order to cure the tumor. So both cases, both recall and precision, are metrics that are very important, especially when we have unbalanced data, which we currently have. And what should we choose in order to measure the metric? Like, what should we use in order to measure how good our model is? Well, that is totally driven by the use case, by the business use case that we have at hand. So let's say that we are very, very strict about not sending any broken tile to a customer. So then we would require to have a very, very high recall, and precision is still fine. So we are still okay with having a good tile sitting in the factory outlet as opposed to sending out any bad tiles. So it's the business that drives these particular decisions. This is about recall and precision. So once we train a model, in the evaluation tab, we'll be able to see the recall, the precision, the AUC curve, also the confusion matrix, which tells you the true positive, true negative, and metrics which are very, very useful and needed in order to go back and feed more data. So in a classic machine learning engineering problem, what would you do? You would look at the metrics and you would probably change the network architecture, or you would change the hyperparameters. But in an auto ML use case, all it you need to change is, the only thing that you can change is the data set. So let's say in our particular use case, let's switch back to the GCP console and take a look at how the model has performed. So this particular model, right, it has a very, very
high precision, and very high recall. So this is a classic case where the data is very, very easy to understand, and the model has basically, when you give it a new data point, which is a tad bit different from it, it is unable to classify it. So this means that we need to feed it more data, and we need to feed it data which is diverse in nature so that it can generalize well. So that is, so in that way we can go ahead and analyze and evaluate the model and go back and feed it either more data or feed it augmented with more data. So during a case of class imbalance, we might have to augment and upsample a particular thing, probably add more tilt it and add more light to it, little light less, and so on, so that it mimics a real life use case and create that kind of a data set. So that's regarding how we use the evaluation metrics in order to measure how good our model is and choose the right metrics for depending on what the business wants and what the business drives. Let's head back to the slides and continue with. Yes, so that's regarding how we evaluate the model. Now, this is a basic summary of what we had done. So we have a data set, and we have a auto ML model which trains, deploys, and serves this. And this is the endpoint that we get to use in order to predict our images. Okay, and this is regarding what to do when, depending on the model, right? If we have very low recall and precision, then we need to add more training data. And like what we faced that the precision and recall was very, very high. So which means that the data set is very easy and it's not able to generalize well. So depending on these metrics, we can go back and improve the data. So coming to the summary of, what do I use to train and when. So the three things that we covered. First is the Vision API. In Vision API, you don't bring your own data. It is automatically pre-trained, and you don't train your own model either because it's a pre-trained model. So neither data nor model is something that we can bring in. Whereas in Cloud Auto ML, like we saw, the model training is not something that we need to do. It automatically selects the right architecture, and it searches the right, it figures out by itself. But what we do need to do is provide it data and label data. The third thing is AI platform. In AI platform, it gives you the customizability to bring in your own data, create your own complex models, and truly solve very complex, nuanced, and use cases that are not very generic. So that's in summary of how to train these models and which method to choose over which and when. So let's wrap up with the question and understand what are the different tools that we used. First, we saw that in order to label this particular data, we used the data labeling service. And in order to train a particular ML model, we used Auto ML Vision. So those are the two services that we used over the other services for this particular question. So thank you. And that was covering the basic fundamentals of a question which talked about the different ML services, vision services that are present, and which one to use given the use case that you have and given the constraints that you have. Tomorrow, we'll be picking up a more complex problem and learning how to build these complex ML models using AI platform and using these Jupyter notebooks. So see you there.
Wow, that was amazing and super insightful. Thank you, Maitri, for joining us today. I hope you all and everyone enjoyed the talk session and you found it pretty knowledgeable.
Yes, thank you, Maitri. Wow, it was such a bliss having you all here with us today. As much as we went, listening to expert speakers and having fun alongside. We hope you enjoy the event as well.
Yeah, thank you all for being a part of Google Cloud Community Days India on the first day. And we hope to bring back the same energy tomorrow.
Yeah, and also don't forget to miss the extra fun learnings that you need to grab from tomorrow's sessions. See you all tomorrow, and of course, with so much fun and learnings. And also, we'll be sharing all the speaker slides in the thank you email that you will be receiving anytime soon. Oh, I'm so excited for tomorrow.
Yes, even me too. Thank you all once again. This is me, Shantanu, signing off for the day. Bye bye for now.
And this is me, Divya, signing off today. Bye. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.